What is up, guys? It is the Blue Bloods, man. Let me know if y'all can hear me, man. We went ahead and got this thing started early, about 20 minutes early. There is way too much to discuss here. I cannot believe what I just witnessed, man. Listen, if I look a little bit tired, this is the back-to-back weeks now that I've had to go cover rain delayed games. I left Alcorn State. I left Lorman last night about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't get back to my house until 5 a.m. this morning, man. So I'm running on zero sleep. But I wanted to get this live stream. We'll talk about the Alcorn game in just a little bit. But man, we got to talk about what just happened down in Miami, man. And listen, call lines are already open. I posted the call in number, man, 701-779-9585. But man, this was embarrassing. I mean, uh I mean, just instant reaction. I mean, really and truly, I am speechless. I just I don't know what just happened. And in case you guys didn't watch it for some reason, 59-3. And you heard me right. Jackson State just beat Florida A&M 59-3. Shador Sanders just just threw more touchdown passes than he had total incompletions. I mean, listen, I, I don't know. I don't even know. I mean, listen, three incompletions. And this is a FAMU defense with Isaiah Land, with BJ Bowler, with Isaiah Major, with Gentle Hunt. I mean, it was embarrassing, man. And I mean, they beat FAMU by almost the exact same amount that UAB beat Alabama A&M on Thursday night. I just want to keep that in perspective for you guys. They beat them the same way that UAB beat Alabama A&M, and the same way that Grambling got beat by Arkansas State last night as well. It was impressive, man. Uh, I mean, this, in my opinion, I think there were one or two performances that were really impressive this weekend. But to go out there against a team who was in the FCS playoffs last year, who a lot of people were calling your biggest, I would say, opponent on your schedule, and to go out there and beat them by 56 points and make that team look atrocious. I mean, I have more questions right now about FAMU than I think I personally have about Valley. I don't know where FAMU goes from this. I mean, what do you turn to? Because really and truly, if I'm on the FCS playoffs committee, there ain't no way I'm letting you in after you just got beat by 56 by Jackson State. There's no way you deserve it unless you go out there and everything. I mean, there was no excuse for FAMU to go out there and look like they did. I mean, Musa looked uncomfortable in the pocket. The offensive line couldn't stop Niles Gaddy in the defensive line. The secondary, even without Nugget, and we'll talk about Nugget not playing in a second, even without Nugget, was playing lockdown defense, man. Travis Hunter came out there and was performing great. And every single turnover and every single mistake that FAMU made, Jackson State found a way to take advantage of that. The fumble, they take it back for a touchdown. The interception, they take it back for a pick six. And I just want to say, man, Shador Sanders, and I mentioned on the preview, the biggest thing I wanted to see him do was take a step forward in his development. I wanted to see pocket presence. I wanted to see command of the offense. And man, he checked every single box for me as an analyst that I was looking for in terms of what he put on the field, man. And even special teams look good, man. They were hitting extra points, they were getting touchbacks. Right now, I think you could say Shador Sanders is the favorite for the Walter Payton Award. I think he is. I think when you look at his performance and you look down the stretch on what he has at the wide receiver spot, the offensive line looks like it's much improved, man. And we'll get to that in a second as well. There is no reason. I mean, there's no reason to say that Shador Sanders can't go out there and win not the Jerry Rice, the Walter Payton Award this year. I really do think that he is the favorite, and I do want to give a shout out, man. I listen, and I don't want to brag. I picked him as my player to watch on defense. Niles Gaddy looked much improved from his performance last year. When you look at his ability to rush the passer, but do it by actually beating the offensive lineman, that was for me the biggest thing, and also his ability to mature in the run game. I feel like so. I feel like Niles Gaddy took a huge step forward. Dow went in there and got a sack. The defensive tackles were great. I mean, they really let Jennings, I think, break one or two runs, but man, that was impressive. This from start to finish, I mean, was the most dominant performance I saw this weekend. And that's including the FCS teams who got FBS wins this week. This was impressive, and I'm really really excited to see the potential of what Jackson State could do, man. And listen, I still think there's maybe only one or two teams on this schedule that can even hang with them, and I don't know if those teams are good enough to beat Jackson State. I'm gonna keep it real with you guys. This win right here. I mean, I don't even know what to say, man. I mean, I picked Jackson State by double digits, but 59-3. I mean, they didn't even sniff the end zone, man. I mean, it wasn't even close. And there was not a single time in the game where I felt like FAMU had a chance. And I was texting some people during the game, and I was just like, man, it really feels like this is just it's one of those things like the levee's gonna break. It felt like from that first drive when Jackson State stopped FAMU and went down there and scored, it literally just felt like the game was gonna be broken open any second. And all it took was FAMU started making mistakes on the offensive side of the football and giving some extra possessions to Jackson State that I mean, there was just no chance. And let's get to the offensive line because you already know that's my thing. They played amazing. I was so impressed with the offensive line. Now, there were a few plays where it wasn't perfect, but I told you guys in the pregame show that I didn't want I personally didn't in my opinion, I personally didn't think it was gonna be a perfect game. They did they allowed a stunt sack to Isaiah Land. He did a twist and Tyler Brown just wasn't in the right spot and he got beat just because of the speed of Land. But the pass blocking was on point. The run blocking, man, it, they were so much more aggressive. And one of the telltale signs, and I know if I remember right, I don't remember if he got the unsportsmanlike or they gave it to FAMU. Tyler Brown and that offensive line were aggressive after the play, man. They were pushing FAMU players off of their quarterbacks to running backs. They were getting in the face of FAMU front seven guys. That to me, that shows that they took the role of being physical, aggressive, and nasty, and that's something that Jackson State did not have last season on the offensive line. I think it was probably a B plus, A minus game for them. They have some room to grow, but you would expect that with five new starters on the offensive line in the first game. And really and truly, this was one or was supposed to be one of the most talented defensive lines that they face all year. You have Land, you have Gentle Hunt, Grambling has Sundiata Anderson, but that's really it. They don't really have another impact player. Campbell has some guys. I think that's probably the next one. And then Tennessee State has some guys. And then, of course, you have Southern. But I mean, this was supposed to be one of the top four defensive lines you faced. And they really and truly went insane on them, man. I was so impressed, in my opinion, with the offensive line. The run game looked really good. I was really surprised at the rotation. I really thought Wilkerson was going to get a majority of the carries. But it seemed like Santi Marshall and JD Martin have really established themselves as the guys in that running back room, and I think that was great. I did want to say, hang on, let's get to this. Nugget played some, but the fact he wasn't a starter says so much. He's got to get the off the field figured out, man. If Nugget and I agree with the Jackson State fans, if Nugget wants to get drafted, he's gonna have to figure out his off the field stuff, or he's not gonna get drafted. And we'll just leave it at that. Um, but for me, the wide receiving core, I told y'all, man, Dallas Daniels is the guy. Dallas Daniels is the guy for me in that wide receiving core that can be an every down guy. And it looks like Shane Hooks has emerged as the red zone threat because of his size. I mean, he bullied. BJ Bowler in the end zone. Now you can argue whether it was a push off or not, whatever, but I mean he bullied BJ Bowler, and it wasn't even close. So I'm impressed, man. Listen, call in. The call number is scrolling on the bottom, man. 701-779-9585, and we'll talk about some of the other games after this, man. But I definitely thought Wilkerson was going to get more of the carries. I really and truly did. And Wiggins played an amazing game. Aubrey played a great game. And I'm extremely excited to see how this team develops moving forward. If the offensive line takes another step forward in the coming weeks and where they get that chemistry built up, this team's going to be damn near unbeatable. It is going to be impressive to watch. And the and the safety spot too, man. The cam was flying around. They did not miss any of those back end guys like you thought. And I am it was crazy. Yeah, I believe so. I think Buckley had a big play there where he got a big first down early in the game. Hang on, we got a caller here. It was crazy. Yeah. 202, you're live.
Hey, what's up?
What's what's good, man?
I watched it also. Did anything shock you
Um
outside the score?
yeah, the score definitely. But like I said, I think it was the running back rotation. It just in my opinion, because I thought Savion was going to be running back one, but it seemed like Santi, in my opinion, got a majority of the carries, and he looked like the better back, in my opinion. So that was probably the most surprising thing for me.
Yeah, the one thing it seemed like obviously on offense they just didn't have. You could tell that when they were just going. Even last year they didn't have a problem going up and down the field, but when they got in that red zone, they scored basically every time, and that's the difference. Um, Brett Boroloni called a great game. Like they just had no answers on offense. So um,
The
it was
the the,
just,
off- the offensive play calling was amazing.
and also the kicking game.
Hmm.
So,
I agree, man.
but not
I can't believe this. 59-3, man. That is
yeah,
mind blowing.
yeah, because they're probably the best defense they're gonna play. Maybe Campbell, um, and I think it shows that if you cannot get pressure, if you can't get pressure on the QB, he's absolutely gonna pick you apart. And he don't miss. He's accurate when it comes to throws. So he's not gonna miss. He's not gonna overthrow. You have to get pressure on him. But if you allow him to sit in the pocket, he's not gonna overthrow people. Like he's just gonna pick you apart.
I agree. So someone someone in the comments said, is that Dre? What's up with your Aggies?
Hey man, we had a bad day. We didn't. We got to and I went to that game. We got to the red zone. We didn't convert. We had a freshman quarterback, but we're gonna be all right. But we got into the red zone multiple times. We just didn't score. So we played bad.
Yeah. I'm gonna be interested.
But hey, we ain't played bad as Sam. We ain't played bad as Sam. You though.
That's true. Hey, you guys got NDSU next week though, so you got to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, we got a freshman quarterback. It's his first year starting, so hey, we got to figure it out at least before at least before the Big South. So,
That's a fact, man. That Campbell A&T game is gonna be one to watch.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Campbell's an hour and a half from Greensboro, so
I agree, man. Hey, but I appreciate the
but
call, Dre.
I appreciate it.
443, you're live.
All right.
You there, man?
Yeah, I'm still there.
Uh, all right, turn your background down and just listen through the phone, man. But you're live, so you're good to talk about whatever.
Okay.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How about you?
All right, I check you out almost every day, man. I'm up here calling from Baltimore, Maryland. I just want to say one thing, man. By the second quarter, Norvell for FSU was sweating. We're sweating bullets because I know he like, oh man, the boosters for Florida State University sitting there saying, we gotta have a meeting. We might have made a mistake. That's all I want to say because I mean, you're looking at a team in Florida A&M that hung 24 on North Carolina last week, and they go in the game early. So, I mean, I was just as stunned as everybody else was. And like I said, I was like, if anybody was sweating bullets, it was Coach Norvell for Florida State saying, "Oh man, I got to go out here and play against LSU." So,
If he
and you
if
know,
he
and we
loses
all know
tonight,
how
if he
we
loses
all know
tonight,
how the boosters are.
ooh,
You know, they're not scared to make a mistake and say we may need to write that check. So that's
man,
all I
you ain't
wanted to say,
lying.
man. I was impressed today.
I think we all were. If I don't care who you root for, who you predicted, anything like that, man, if this win didn't impress you, I don't know. I don't know what people were watching because every time they scored, I was like, man, they got to have a running clock or they're gonna put up 80 on them.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. And I mean, but Dion kept saying, man, that the hiring of Coach Maurice from University of Georgia just made the whole squad just look different. I mean, you could see it too. Like they just did not look the same as they did last year. Everybody body type was just so much looking different all across the board. So I mean, yeah, Dion said he was going to make changes after that South Carolina State. So, and you could definitely see it within his team. That's what I think.
I completely agree, man. It's going to be interesting next week. If they go out there, let me just tell you, if they go out there and beat Tennessee State by 30-40, it's over. They won't lose a game this year, and there might not be a team to come within 20.
I agree. I agree. And I just think, again, well, I just think Dion just put everybody on notice, man. That hey, if next week versus Tennessee State, you may want to tune in to me and Eddie, and not worry about nobody else.
Man, I'm going to be covering that game. So, I already talked to. I got my credentials through Tennessee State, of course. You know how I might not be in
Yeah.
the best standing with JSU, but I got my credentials approved. I'll be in Nashville next or Memphis next week to cover that game. I am so ready, man. I wish I could drive there tonight and sit in that stadium, man. I am so pumped to see TSU's run game against this JSU defense, man. I am pumped.
Yeah, I am too, and I just to hear that, they competed with Eastern Washington is a big plus. So
That they should have won that game. Just between us, I got to watch that due to the rain delay at Alcorn. That they should have won that game.
oh man, yeah, next week's game, I definitely, I think, like I said again, I think Dion put everybody on notice, man. I mean, if you're trying to put me and Eddie on ESPN2 or ESPN3, you making a bad mistake. We need to be on ESPN.
I hope they flex that game. They've done it the past few years a few times for FCS games where they flex them to a higher channel. I'm hoping that happens next week, man. But hey, I appreciate the call, man. The call lines are buzzing, but
Yeah,
appreciate you, bro.
appreciate you taking my call. Love you.
Let's see. I think we got Coach Green here. What's up, Coach Green?
Let me turn my volume down. Okay. Man,
How you feeling? I mean, listen, I thought they were going to put up as many points as Southern did last night, really and truly.
man. Hey, Dooley needed to be charged with child endangerment for what he did the other night. And
Man,
he did that with playing three quarterbacks.
we were in the press box and we thought it was like a mess up. We were texting people to make sure the ESPN app was correct because I was like, there's no way they put 86 points on Florida Memorial. And I mean, I looked at the live stats and I think you guys had like three or four running backs. averaging it was like almost 15 to 20 yards per carry or something like that.
Hmm. Yeah, it was crazy. And hey, their defense, I don't want to judge our firm. I want to see what they do against how their defense does against LSU O line. But as of right now, their defense look as advertised. That D line, as you spoke about it, they look as advertised.
I'm going to be interested to see what they look like next week because I'm not putting any stock into what y'all did against Florida Memorial. If y'all go out there and compete with
Me,
LSU, you can count me on the bandwagon. But until then, I can't give y'all. I saw ESPN giving y'all helmet stickers and everything. Listen, y'all beat up a JUCO team. Y'all don't get no helmet stickers for that.
yeah. But I say this though. I say the one silver lining in it. Last year, team probably would have struggled against Florida Memorial defensively.
I don't know, bro. Florida Memorial is in what is it? NAIA?
No,
There's no way.
they D2.
Okay, but they just went to D2. Like they're still I don't even know. I mean, if you put them I think everyone in the SWAC could have put 86 on them, to be honest. The top
Yeah,
teams. So I
yeah.
just want to see y'all against a good team. That's it. But how do you feel about how do you feel about Southern matching up with Jackson State now after what you saw today?
Um, I want to wait till after we play like LSU to see how how we do against them, and then start thinking about that because who we played, you really don't know. It,
Hey,
it didn't tell.
that's
It
true.
really haven't told nothing for who we played. But
I agree.
I would say that Jackson State defense is even better than what it was last year
That's a fact.
because I think everybody's looking at James Houston gone, but not looking at the coaching staff, which one of their coaching staff is the defensive coordinator, Dennis Thurman, and the people on the defensive side could coach. We got to give credit where credit due. I know everybody, oh, they got, but when any coach will tell you, the only people that can make a coach look good is talent. Talent make any coach look good, and they got talent, and they knew how to coach that talent. And you might as well say this: they smartly use the transfer portal. Some people just get transferred but don't use it the right way.
Yeah.
They just get it just because they 4 or 5 started to just start grabbing folks, or 3 star just grab folks, but not looking at what did they do when they was at the. Because you spoke about it, matter of fact. You actually spoke about that when it comes to getting transferred. You always
Mhm.
say, what did they do where they was at before?
Exactly.
So that's gonna
You
be
you still have to develop transfers. I
yeah.
mean, there's very rarely you get a transfer that comes in fully developed, and as much
Mm-hmm.
as people aren't going to give Coach Prime and the staff any credit, man, you do have to give them credit for bringing in transfers that fit their scheme and are ready to play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's too
Yep.
many teams that go out there across both levels. I'm not just talking FCS. You look at the FBS transfers, you can go get some guys that aren't ready. And that's just
Mm-hmm.
how it is sometimes. So you do have to give Coach Prime and the staff credit for their evaluation and going and getting guys that are going to go out there and play.
Yeah. I know somebody else we can't disrespect no more. Gandy.
Who?
Not Gandy. Gotti.
You're talking about Niles. Okay,
Yeah.
I
Now.
don't know who you're talking about, but that's fine.
Now Gotti. That's what I think. That's
Yeah, now Niles Gaddy is Gaddy.
Gotti. Okay. Gotti. Yeah.
He
Hey,
played great.
he looked good.
I was told that's why I picked him as my player to watch. But hey man, Coach Green, man, I got a bunch of callers on, but I appreciate you calling, man.
Oh, no problem.
All right, man. Hey, if you're on the call line, just sit tight. I'm getting to all of you guys. Mike, I think this is Mike Reed here, man. What's up, man? You live.
What's going on, Blue?
What's good, man? I know you're feeling good right now.
Blue, Blue, I'm on top of the mountaintop right now, Blue. Because I told everybody about Niles Gaddy. I told y'all, and I told y'all Musa was not it. There was a dominating performance by Jackson State on all three phases of the ball, and I loved it. I love how Shadul was taking control of the offense. There was no miscommunication. Everything was on point. Him and his receivers had a rapport, and that defense, oh man, that defense is smothering. And I said Musa wouldn't have time to wipe his you know what back there, Blue. And everything just came into fruition today, and I love it.
You know, as much as Jackson State fans, like, because I was going back and looking through the predictions that were commented on my video, a lot of people were predicting like a 20, 30-point win. But man, I think even Jackson State fans, if they're being honest with themselves, a 56-point win even was better than they were expecting.
Blue, I didn't expect it. I'm going to keep it real, Blue. I didn't expect it at all.
It was embarrassing. If you're a FAMU player coach right now, you're just like, where do we go? Like, that film study is going to be brutal, man. I've been on the other side of that when I played. Man, you might have to call in sick, man. Players are going to be looking for any excuse not to go watch that film Monday.
Blue, absolutely dominated by JSU. I think they just put basically the nation on notice. Dion put the nation on notice today.
Oh, just wait. Listen, in this PowerPoint that I got pulled up, I'm dropping my FCS top 25. There's been some changes.
Oh, I can't wait. I cannot wait, Blue. I cannot wait.
I'm submitting the poll tonight, man. Listen, and I've talked to some voters. I'm just going to warn y'all, do not be surprised when the FCS stats per form top 25 drops if JSU's in the top 10.
Uh-oh. Don't do that, Blue. Don't. They better not do that, Blue.
I got someone to hit. Someone hit me up about third quarter of the game, who's one of the top voters, and said Jackson State honestly might be one of the best teams in the country, easily.
I believe it, Blue. After what I seen today, that domination offensively and defensively. Oh man, you can't deny it.
Ah, man, it was impressive. I can't, in my opinion, I mean, because I try to be as realistic as possible, analyzing games, things like that. I mean, 56 points. I was sitting, preparing for this show, writing articles that's going to be dropping this week, watching this game, and I was just, like I said earlier, I was like, man, they could have had a running clock because I was like, man, they're going to put 60 on them.
Exactly.
It was
we could have ran the score to 70, 80 if we wanted to, really.
Oh, if they wouldn't have pulled Shador, easily.
Oh yeah, easily.
But hey, Mike, man, I appreciate you calling. I'm gonna try to get to some of these other callers, man. But congrats on the big win, Blue. Man.
All right, man.
All right, let's get to another one of these callers here. 662, you're live.
Hello.
What's up, man? You're live.
Yes, sir. How you doing, Blue?
Not too bad, man. How about you?
Man, I'm feeling good like the last caller, man. I'm feeling good. Man, like on which I was expecting, I'm be realistic. I was expecting a blowout. I talked to you on off script when y'all did a collab together. And my final score was 35-14. I would like, man, I don't think nobody was predicting this, man. Like I say, I'll predict 35-14, something like that, like a good 20-something point win. This score right here, I don't think nobody was predicting that. But no, Jackson State, they going to have to start playing in the FCS playoffs. They're going to have, after this year's celebration ball, they're going to have to start playing in a FCS playoff, man. Them guys got too much talent, man.
Listen, I mean, right now, the way the MEAC look, the MEAC didn't really look great outside of maybe Central, but we don't know what A&T was. I don't this year's Celebration Bowl, man, they're on a mission. And really and truly, if you're looking back as a Jackson State fan, and I know, and I said this probably 2 or 3 live streams ago, that loss in the Celebration Bowl might have been the best thing to happen to Jackson State.
Hell yeah, I agree.
It was amazing, man. But listen, we're gonna dead the playoff talk for now. It's not gonna happen, man. We know about the finances of that, so we'll just leave that there. But I think if they go out there, especially the way Campbell looked Thursday, and Campbell plays a potential top 25 team in William and Mary next week, who just knocked off an FBS team. If they go in there and beat William and Mary, and then Jackson State goes in there and smacks Campbell, if Jackson State is ranked in the top 10 this week, by the end of the season, if they keep winning, do not be surprised if Jackson State finds their way near the top 5 of the FCS top 25.
Man. And one other thing before you let me go, I did watch that Tennessee State Eastern Washington game. I heard you say earlier to another caller that Tennessee State should have won that game. I was pulling for Tennessee State, but I can't take nothing away from Eastern Washington. After that weather delay, that was the best thing to happen to Tennessee State, that weather delay, because whatever was going on, they figured something out and they try to make a comeback. But you got to give Eastern Washington a prop, man. Them guys came back, man. Them guys fought, man. Especially in the trenches. So, the Eastern Washington was the better team, So, I just wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, they definitely get credit. That new quarterback who what's it called? Who took over for Eric Berrier, Gunnar Talkington, man, that kid can ball. And he's been sitting behind Berrier for 3 years. He had a hell of a game. And the good part is Tennessee State got to go up against an offense that is very, very similar to what Jackson State's going to run next week. EWU runs the same type of system. So the fact they have some experience with that, I think that's great film for TSU. But also now JSU has a little bit of film on them too. Next week, we're going to find out everything, man. Listen, like I said, if they go out there and beat Tennessee State by 20 or 30, oh man, it's watch out.
Hey, Blue, you got to give me your position before you let me go. Tennessee State, Jackson State.
Go ahead.
No, you got to give it to me. I want to hear what you think.
Listen, I'm dropping that episode either Monday or Tuesday, man. Listen, I'm breaking it all down, but I can't give it too early, man, because then no one's going to watch the episode. But listen, I've already got my PowerPoint, my breakdown ready. That's coming early this week. Do not worry.
Okay, I'll be looking for it.
Hey, I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, bye.
Okay. 409, you're live.
Hey, what's going on, Blue?
What's good, man?
Man, so I think we just seen the Heisman Trophy worthy performance out of Shedeur Sanders. I know it's early on in the season, but I definitely want to keep everything in a proper perspective. But I mean, what defense, maybe outside of Southern's defensive line, what defense is going to be comparable in the SWAC to what FAMU had on display? I mean, whenever you consider how FAMU looked against FBS school in North Carolina for 3 quarters, they looked like a formidable foe, and quite frankly, I was nervous as a Jackson State fan coming into this game. Definitely thought it was going to be a whole lot more competitive. But once I seen the dominance with the offensive line, the defense, and obviously the quarterback play from Shedeur, not to mention the offensive play calling, I mean, man, I'm of the mindset that Jackson State can actually compete. I'm not going to say beat, but they actually compete with some of your FBS Power 5 schools. Now, I'm not obviously putting them against a Georgia, Alabama. I'm not going to get carried away. But I would like to see them compete against your Florida States and your North Carolina just to see where they at. But, back to my original question, what's the chances Shador stays on track with the performance that he had today, which is not out the question, is it possible for him to be for his name to be brought up in the Heisman Trophy conversation this year?
Um, it is no, and here's why: the Heisman Trophy voting has really changed since the last time we saw an FCS finalist or anything. That's why they've really pushed the Walter Payton Award as the Heisman, or the offensive Heisman of the FCS. So you got to look at some of the stats that like Barrier and people put up, throwing for like almost 5,500 yards, 60 touchdowns. If they didn't give them the Heisman, they're not going to give Shador the Heisman now. Do I think he's a favorite for the Walter Payton right now? Absolutely. He's right now in the driver's seat for the FCS Offensive Player of the Year award, which is to Walter Payton, but they're not going to give an FCS player the Heisman ever, and they're never going to give them votes just because of the politics behind it and the way the voting committee has changed since the 90s at the FBS level.
So, with that being said, and obviously, the last time I even heard of somebody sniffing a Heisman Trophy vote from the FCS level was obviously the late was Alcorn State. What was the quarterback from Alcorn?
McNair.
Aaron McNair, correct. Aaron McNair. So you don't think that because Dion has a lot of influence and he don't mind, putting people on blast and speaking his mind. You don't think Dion can sway a vote or two to actually at least get Shador invited to the Heisman ceremony?
He might swing like some votes, maybe. I mean, there might be a voter or two, but to get invited now, you have to be a top 3 finalist. So you're looking at, you probably need somewhere in the point total of like 3 to 500, even more points in terms of voting. There is no way. I mean, even with Coach Prom's influence, that he'll ever have enough. He'll never have enough even hype to get behind that. Now, for the Walter Payton, absolutely, but I definitely. I mean, there's almost like a 0% chance for the Heisman.
I got you. And listen, last question. And obviously, I want your honest opinion because I value your feedback. I sit back and I watch a lot of you and off scripts dialogue as it pertains to the FCS and the upper echelon, the JMUs and the North Dakota States, and so forth and so on. With the performance that Jackson State put on display this evening, how would you think a game between them and the JMUs or the North Dakota State would play out?
I mean, I think I said earlier that they're probably a top 10 team. They're probably going to compete, but do I think they go 10-0 or 9-0 against the other top 10 teams? Probably not. And I mean, JMU is now in the FBS, and in their first FBS game, they beat another FBS team by like 30 points in their season opener. So James Madison has 20 extra scholarships now, so I don't know if that would be a fair matchup. But in terms of the North Dakota, South Dakota states, I mean, you also got to look. I mean, South Dakota State played a Big Ten team in Iowa and held them to 7 points, and 4 of those 7 points were safeties. So their defense held an FBS Big Ten school who wins 8 to 10 games per year to 3 total offensive points. It's a high level at the top of the FCS. Jackson State's in that conversation for a top 10 team, but they're not going to go undefeated against the top FCS teams like some people think.
I got you. And last question. I hate to hijack your call in, but any word on what happened to Weidman today?
I don't want to speak. I don't want to speak too much on it. But I did hear it was some sort of academic holdup. I don't know how long it's going to take to figure out or anything, but um, in terms of how long it could take, I heard it's just when he gets that figured out. So we'll see.
Okay. All right, Blue. Good stuff, man.
Appreciate you, man.
All right.
931. You're live.
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing, man?
All right, Blue. Did you see what you needed to see out of Shedeur Sanders as far as taking that next step?
Absolutely. Like I said, it's hard because I really won't looking statistically. And I mean, he set the single games Jackson State record with 5 passing touchdowns, and he had what 3 incompletions. In my opinion, he showed command of the offense. He showed better poise in the pocket, and his ball placement and his arm, everything was on point. In my opinion, right now he's the favorite to win the Walter Payton. He showed me everything I needed to see, and I'm excited to see what he does over the next few games. Because if he continues this pace up, in my opinion, there's no one who's going to compete with him for that Walter Payton. Especially when you look at Jason Shelley not having the best game for Missouri State on Thursday night. And on top of that, Xavier Shepard had a terrible game when Kennesaw got upset on Thursday night by Sanford. So Shedeur just has to be himself the rest of the season. And I'm not expecting him to only have 3 incompletions throughout the rest of the season, but I wouldn't be surprised if he, I would say, approaches 70% completion percentage this season. I mean, especially the way the offense is set up with the underneath and the short passes and the high percentage passes that they built in. I think Shedeur could have a great season this year, man. So I saw everything I needed to see from week 1 this weekend.
All right, now did that look like a true air raid, or did you think it was more of like a spread? Because I was getting spread vibes from what I saw today.
I think what happens is people confuse like a true air raid. Most of the time today, the spread and air raid don't differ that much. And so what they did, and it was something I talked about a few episodes back, where it's really not like a true air raid. They still run the football really well. And so what they do is use the air raid formations for you to empty the box, give their offensive line the numbers advantage, and then they're going to run the football down your throat. And then when you start bringing those safeties down in the box and they get one-on-ones on the outside with Shane Hooks or Dallas Daniels like they did in the red zone, Shedeur has the ability to throw it up, and those wide receivers have the ability to go make a play. So they just do a great job of putting the defense in bad situations. And that goes back to what I talked about earlier with hiring great analysts, with having coaches who understand the game. They were able to scheme so perfectly to take Isaiah Landon, the defensive line, out of the game. I don't know if you guys saw the first half. I think it was the very first drive. They put the tight end in the slot. They bring them on on a motion.
Oh, like that tip. I saw it for that run.
And they cracked back on Isaiah Land, and the tight end about took his head off. He came full speed. Shedeur snapped it, and he smacked Isaiah Land in. And I mean, he wound up past the center. And so little intricate things like that in their offense are stuff that people are really, really going to have problems with scheme wise over the next few weeks.
All right, now from FAMU side, do you think that, I mean, because it's just one game, what do you got FAMU landing after the past couple of weeks that they've had? They're starting to get the players back, so eligibility won't be an issue. Where do you see them ending up at the end of the year when it's all said and done in the SWAC?
Excuse me. I'm going to say I need to see them against Alabama A&M. I want to see them then, because I don't think next week they play is it Albany State, the D2 team. I don't think we're going to learn a lot about the team then. They should win that game, so they'll be going into Alabama A&M 1-3 or 1-2. My bad. So if they're going into Alabama A&M 1-2 and they lose that game, I mean, you're looking at potentially a 3rd, 4th, 5th place finish in the division if things don't start rolling out right. Because they still have Southern. That Bethune didn't look bad in the first half, but until they pulled their starters against Miami. So there's not a lot of guaranteed wins on that schedule. But I'm going to be patient with FAMU until I see them against Alabama A&M. If Alabama A&M comes into Bragg and beats them, man, it's a bleak outlook for FAMU.
All right, last question. How high profile is this Campbell-Jackson State game, with both of them possibly being in the top 10 by that point?
Campbell's not going to be in the top 10. I'll just throw that out there. They potentially could be in the top 25. Like, you forget, Campbell probably started the year somewhere in the 60s in terms of the polls. Like, nobody even had them in honorable mentions, anything. And so when I look at their schedule, William and Mary is a huge game for them. They they beat Charlotte. That's on the slideshow. We'll talk about that. So they beat Charlotte last week. If they can beat William and Mary, who's going to be a top 25 team this week, if I had to predict that, they'll probably start being considered in the top 25. Then they got to beat Central. I think Central is going to be considered for some top 25s after what they did to A&T. They had to win that one. I think if Campbell is going to be top 20, they got to come into that JSU game undefeated. And I personally don't know if they will. If they come in with one loss, they might be somewhere in the 21 to 25 range. But I think just because of the recruiting classes, Mike Minter versus Coach Prime, and with Jackson State potentially rolling by that point, I personally think that game is going to be one of the most anticipated games of the season. Just because non-Jackson State fans keep having this question. Y'all see it on Twitter. Let's just keep it honest. I'm not going to name anybody, but you keep seeing on Twitter, how are they going to perform against some of the top teams outside of the SWAC? If they go and smack Tennessee State, that Campbell game is circled as what does Jackson State look like? So I think it's going to be very high profile, and I've already got that trip planned, and I'm excited to be at that game because Campbell, I've talked to the coaches at Big South Media Day. I've talked to some of the players. They think they can win that game. Even with it being homecoming and in the vet, they're confident. And so I think everyone in the FCS world and media space is going to be tuned in for that one.
Hey, man, thank you for answering my call.
Hey, appreciate you, man. All right, call lines are packed, man. I'm getting to all the y'all. Just hang tight, man.
Hey, appreciate you, man.
919, you're live.
Oh, shit. I didn't even know I was live yet. I had to mute myself. My fault.
No,
I had
you
to
good,
write
man.
a list because there was a lot going through my mind when this was happening. First part, I don't even remember seeing them running a mesh. Like, FAMU just stayed in the zone the whole time, and they were just doing simple stick routes. Run the stick with the slot receivers, send the running back into the flats. It was open all day. I've seen it happen to my school yesterday. Won't say because there's some things I'm going to say. I'm going to try to stay in my. It's just simple air raid stick play. They just kept running all game, and FAMU had no answers for it. It's a bad look on SWAC coaches because this game shows with Brett Bartolone. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right. The lack of QB progression and QB development with some of these SWAC coaches is glaring. Like, look at Shador from last year versus this year. And I don't even think Shador is the greatest. Like, he has the best talent in the FCS around him. But if you put in the best talent around him and he has some of the best coaching, you get that type of results. Like, most air raid quarterbacks throw for 3,500 to 4,000 yards, but they never make it to the NFL. So it's definitely the scheme. Speaking of schemes, Jackson State looked just like Nevada today. I felt like I was watching Nevada run that pistol power air raid version. That's what Jackson State looked like today. It was definitely a lot going on. Bartolone, we killed him for not having experience and Dion being outside of the box hiring them. But clearly that was a great hire because it just made FAMU look like JV team. Like, it was really just insane. I couldn't imagine how they didn't make no type of adjustment. I don't want to throw no shade to the previous coaching staff, but it just shows the lack of progression. I know coaches in the HBCU realm, intern under coaches in the HBCU realms, and it's too many HBCU coaches that can't develop quarterbacks. And, it took for Dion to hire somebody from outside of the conference for, this to be showing the fruits of the labor, especially with all that talent. It's just a bad look for HBCU coaches. What else I was going to say? South Carolina State, they better hope they lose the Central because I think Jackson State going to go into the Celebration Bowl looking to embarrass them. I think they will literally try to put 65 to 75, 70 points on South Carolina State. But I think the Central is going to win the MEAC. I think Central is for real. South Carolina State is looking too far ahead for Jackson State, and I don't think they're going to beat North Carolina Central. Yeah, with Shador, he looks good, but every air raid quarterback looked good in that scheme. You know, I'm not going to sit here and act like he's the greatest. Andrew Body would do the same thing if he's in this scheme with those players around him. This team could beat a lot of lower level FBS teams. I think they for real. And the biggest difference is they have a good defense again, but they can put up points. So now, if you try to take away one thing, they can beat you another way. You know, a lot of HBCU teams can't do that. I give Buddy Pugh as an example. Great defensive mind. But his quarterback play every year is just not the greatest. So when you got a team that can take away your run game and make you throw that ball, you know, it's the L. But that's all for me. Y'all have a nice night.
Hey, all right, man. Now, I got two more callers on the line. I'll get to you in just a second. I do want to say, I don't know if I completely agree with that, man. For me, I think when you look at the talent that a lot of these quarterbacks came out with, man, there's just not a quarterback right now on the level of Shador in terms of their understanding of the game. And I think when you, this is one of the things I mentioned on the preview, you see, and especially today, and you know, this is an instant reaction, so I don't have any of the highlights together, and I'm probably going to do another live stream Monday. Um, his command of the offense is different, and it's something that you don't see with a lot of quarterbacks, and especially at the FCS level, man. There's not a lot of quarterbacks who have a command over the offense like Shador does this offense. You just tell he looks comfortable, and everyone looks to him when things aren't going correctly. And without him, I mean, I don't know what this. I don't think this offense would be what it is. So I don't know if you could take credit away from Shador on that one. I think Shador deserves a lot of credit, man. I don't care what the offense is. 3 incompletions, 5 passing touchdowns, and some of the throws he made. I don't know. Listen. He gets all the credit, in my opinion. 404. You're live.
Beautiful. I love strong girls. They can say she's strong.
404. Live.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you, man.
All right, Blue. Let me tell you, my brother. Let me turn off your. You got all YouTube stuff. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah,
okay.
You're good, man.
First, I want to say, man, I appreciate how good you are when you come and you look at these games and you come with a real heart. I love the other podcasters for HBCUs, like Oscar, that's my man, but you can see that he has a little thing against JSU, but that's okay. He has to wear one of our shirts now. But outside of that, I was at the game live on the 50-yard line, down by the field, close in action, and just to see how the offense and defense was clicking, even though they had some penalties they shouldn't. They was running multiple sets, multiple teams. I'm talking about taking out this group of receivers, putting in another one every 2 plays, man. It was like we talked about how they had 6, 7 receivers deep, and it's like how all of them going to play. That's how they was doing it. No team is not going to be able to study us the way they want to study us because we don't have the consistent players in all offense. Everybody is getting a chance to eat on the offense and the defense. The defense, they run it defensive line in every other play. I'm even seeing Miller going out after 2 or 3 plays. They're bringing another fresh crew. And that's part of the success that they're building because they're going deeper than just the starters. And it was a beautiful game. I don't want to dog Florida A&M now because everybody tried to say they played North Carolina or look what they did against North Carolina. North Carolina don't run the same defensive schemes we run. They're not built like us. We know how we want to come out, and that's why we showed today. No, just because we had a chance to see them ahead of the game that we was able to just know. We know what we want to do. And that's the reason why we played them differently than North Carolina, man. So I'm just here and I'm glad to see that they came out the gate blazing. We should have had 60-some points. We blew some touchdowns because of late penalties. But the defense, 2 touchdowns on the defense. I'm talking about block punt touchdown. He had a pick 6. We missed in the first half. And, man, I'm just excited about what JSU is doing, how they're looking to move forward. And today we set a precedent. We set a precedent to all of HBCUs, not just the SWAC, to how we coming. Now, you're going to have to be ready, man. So with that, Blue, man, I'm going to sit back. You got any questions for me, man? But I'm just loving how you do it. And you real about how you speak about this, and you bias, and you keep it real, man. So I like how you run your thing.
Hey man, I appreciate the call, man. What was the crowd like, man? Because I like to watch my games. I'm a little bit like when I'm covering a game for my show.
Yeah.
I don't listen with a lot of the volume, man. Because listen, I got a little bias, man. Jay Walker, I can't stand to listen to him. This is my opinion.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that. What was the crowd like there, man? What was the crowd atmosphere?
Let me say this, bro. It was an awesome crowd on both sides, even though the sun was on part of the Florida A&M side, because the shade, they got the shade thing, but it was still a crowd, a sun on them. But it was a nice crowd on Florida A&M. They was kind of wrapping around just on their side and coming around to the side. You seen a lot of orange and green, but we came in stronger force. I mean, full effect from the bottom of the field up to the top and around. And not only that, our band was just that sonic boom. When you say the sonic boom, we drowned in everything. We was participating. Every time the band came open, we was participating. It was live, and we was never had a chance not be cheering for our team, because we was performing all game. I'm talking about the crowd was into it. Every hit, every interception, every foreign out that we did, man. So, man, it was a great atmosphere. And like I said, we literally, from the crowd alone, we took Florida A&M out from that part, not just even the players.
Man, hey, I appreciate your insight, man. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you, Blue. I keep looking at you, man. Keep up the great work.
Appreciate you. Man, listen, before I get 601, you're next, then 404, then 337, then 269. So y'all stay on the call line. Man, I gave it a shot. I had the volume on, and Jay Walker said, man, great protection. Man, look at the protection. And then Jackson State got the sack like right when he said it. And I'm like, yeah, this is enough. I just muted it. I can't do it, man. I just can't do it. 601, you're live.
Yeah, what's going on, man?
What's good, man?
Okay. Well, you dry?
Man, listen, last night I was so pissed because I don't know how many people in the chat have driven to Alcorn or Lorman. Man, make that drive at 2 a.m. just knowing you have 4 hours all the way back to your house. I was miserable, man. I was just angry at everything, man. It was sunny. Listen, for the past 2 weeks, MEAC SWAC Challenge and this weekend at Stephen F. Austin Alcorn, it was sunny. The teams are warming up. And right before kickoff, they send the teams right back to the locker room. 2 for 2, man. I'm talking about I was going insane, man. I was pissed. I told G, I was like, I'm about to just head home now. I was so angry.
Yeah, I've been there before. Yes, I was in the military, and the skies opened up. They opened up when you're out there training, and it sucks. But I feel your pain. But I also, how you feel about this game today?
Like I said, nobody. Listen, Coach Prime, Shador, Ken, Zoe, all my guys at Jackson State, 56-point win. No one saw it coming. Plus, they had was it Herman who dropped the pick 6 in the first quarter? I mean, it could have been 66 to 3.
Hey, I'll be honest with you. Before the season started, I'm going to be honest with you. People don't believe me, but I was like, you know what? We're going to be fan off 3 to 4 touchdowns before the season started. They got Musa. And I saw play North Carolina. I'm like, ooh, that might be a closer game. And then North Carolina played Appalachian State. And I was like, I don't know. I thought about some of those things, like, you know, Gene Chizik is the defense coordinator. He ain't been coached since 2016. North Carolina defense was trash last year. It was kind of like, wait a minute now. Wait a minute. You know, their defense is trash before. Gene Chizik ain't coached in 6 years. So wait a minute. So it's Musa, and they didn't send no pressure. So is Musa straight, or is, you feel me? That's what I'm thinking. Like, I'll beat the hell out of them. I ain't think it was this bad, but that's what I was thinking in my head.
I mean, from the FAMU side, there's no reason to put McKay in anymore. Every single time he touched the ball, he had 2 turnovers that led to touchdowns. You can't give him the ball anymore. I understand what they tried to do. It just didn't work, and it looked really bad.
I mean, the questions I ever asked was always the offensive line. I mean, like I said, offensive line played a B plus or B plus. I mean, look at me wrong. You know, Pammy had pressure. Shador played A plus. Oh my goodness. Shador played out of his damn mind. But I got a serious question. Is like, why didn't Fam send any damn pressure? Like, I mean, Fam's base defense is like cover 2. You know, this is what we got. You know, but it's like you weren't getting pressure. Why not send pressure? I'm sorry. You feel me?
Yeah, I got you.
It didn't make any sense to me. I mean, I'm a Jackson fan. It's like you in the so damn. They might have shifted Martha safety down and show cover 2 or cover 3 man, but it was the same. It was the reason so damn easy. I mean, don't get me wrong. Jackson State got some weapons. It's obvious. Oh, it was ugly. I didn't want it ugly.
It was definitely ugly, man. But hey, I appreciate you calling in, man. I gotta get to some of these other callers, but appreciate you, man.
All right.
404, you're live.
Hey, this is Mr. Ford. How you doing?
How you doing, Mr. Ford, man? How'd you feel about that game? I know you got some thoughts.
Yeah, I got some thoughts, but let me congratulate you first. You called the whole thing about North Carolina Central. I heard you many a day talk about that program and what was going on up there. I didn't really buy into it, but I want to congratulate you. I thought that they did a great job last night. I thought they outcoached the NT crowd. I truly believe after watching them last night, Central is a threat to win that MEAC, and they are a threat to come to the Celebration Bowl. But let me just say this first and foremost. I want to congratulate the president of North Carolina A&T. I think his name is Dr. Martin. The athletic director at North Carolina A&T, I think his name is Hilton, or is it Hinton? You A&T people, could you correct me on his name? Is it Hilton or Hinton? But what I want to congratulate them on is that they have destroyed a once proud program with this conference jumping from MEAC to Big South, and now they're talking about they're getting ready to go to the CAAA. I want to tell them you have destroyed that program. You made it a vagabond program. Earl Hilton, right? That's him. Thank you, Earl Hilton. Here's the thing that I saw last night about North Carolina A&T. Because of this Hilton and this Dr. Martin, you have taken all of the dignity and the pride that was in that program and was in those players. You've taken it. And I want to congratulate you on it. You made North Carolina A&T a vagabond program. And you're talking about you're now going to leave the Big South and go CAA. Good luck with that. But I want to congratulate you, okay? Because you've destroyed that program. And let me say this about A&T. I know they're going to fire Sam Washington. That's what they always do. They always blame it on the coach. But it's all about that president and that AD and that foolishness of following behind Slick Harvey, who used to be the president at he was the president of Hampton. he always wanted to tell everybody what to do in the MEAC. But as soon as he got a chance, he jumped the MEAC and went to the Big South. And before he retired, he made sure that Hampton was in the CAAA. AJ Niles, I got my chance. Now you get yours. Whoever you are, AJ Niles. But let me say this about today's game. Every move that Coach Sanders made this summer, I saw it today. I saw it with the coaching staff. I saw it with the players. And let me say this about this team I watched today. This team is better than last year's team by a long shot. Let me say this, Blue. I don't know if you noticed this, but Jackson State is getting ready to be DBU. A bunch of them DBs for Jackson State, them guys going in NFL, especially them corners. Them guys are going to get a shot. Because, see, what Dion and them is stressing to them is that they've got to be masters as far as man-to-man coverage. When you can play man-to-man coverage, you're going to get a shot at the NFL. And I'm telling y'all now, a bunch of them DBs I saw today, and you mentioned that kid, Smith, I like that kid. I like that kid. I really like that kid, but I like so many of them kids that I saw today. Now, ain't no need of nobody getting on FAMU, okay? I done talked about FAMU. I've been on Swag Buzz show the last 2 times. All y'all got to remember, you FAMU folks, long as you don't make that move and get rid of that president, you're going to have more bad days like you had today. You can't get around it. See, here's the difference in the day. Deion Sanders, that football team is his baby, okay? On his side, he has President Hudson, A.D. Ashley Robinson. If Deion tells them he wants the moon, they go in and put a down payment on it Monday. Let's go over to FAMU. You got Willie Simmons. First of all, he got a 3 or 4 time interim, which means nothing. A.D. He has a president, Dr. Larry Robinson, who despises athletics and despises him. I guess you can call him a super geek or super nerd who hates the athletic department. Isn't that a big difference? Isn't that a big difference, Blue?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, that's a big difference. So you saw all that today, all that confusion that Florida A&M has had this week, not knowing whether or not you come into the week, 26 players suspended. Then at the end of the week, 8, everybody can come back, but 8 players. That's confusion and chaos. You think you're going to play a championship team like Jackson State with that kind of personnel, and you're going to play them head-to-head? Are you out of your mind? And let me say this about Shedeur. Let me take you back, Blue. Shedeur today reminded me of a kid, not a kid, but a man years ago who played for Tennessee State. They called him Joe 747 Adams. He was picked up by the 49ers, eventually played a number of years in the Canadian Football League. If you ever get a chance, Blue, go look him up. Shedeur look kind of like him today. And I want to say this to them Tennessee State folks. The way that Jackson came in and played today, they reminded me of them Tennessee State teams under Big John Merritt during the 70s and the early 80s before he passed away. That's what they look like today. Blue, you got any questions for me? Anything you want to ask me?
Oh, no. I mean, I'm just still trying to wrap my head around. I can't wait, even though I watched the whole game. Because, you know, I had to go back and watch some film of games yesterday because I was down in Lorman covering that game. But I still can't believe what I watched. I mean, I knew Shedeur was good, but, man,
he looks really good.
3 incompletions and 5 touchdowns over 300 yards with a fully healthy secondary. Man, that was impressive.
But see, here's the difference. He came to the SWAC media day so humble. In comparison to his freshman year, he came in talking smack. See, when you humble yourself, that's when your blessings come. And he has humbled himself. And this new offense fit. And see, one of the things that Brett, I think I'm saying Brett Bartolome, is that right? Is that the way you say his name?
I think it's Bartolone.
Bartolone. Okay. See, one of the things he has eliminated, Shedeur used to hold on to the ball too long. Now, that offense, that ball is out of his hands in less than 2 and 3 seconds. He's taking maybe 2 steps, 3-step drops, no more, and he's letting it go. Okay? I'm going to say this about all them guys from that the coach that they brought in that used to be the coach up in Minnesota.
Oh, Zimmer.
What's his name? Tim what?
Mike Zimmer.
No. The guy was at the University of Minnesota. He's doing the tight ends right now.
Oh man, I'm blanking on his name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. See, him, this Bartolome, and a bunch of them guys on them staff, them guys getting ready to get new jobs. Brewster, there you go right there, Tim Brewster. See, Brewster and that offense coordinator, if they continue to play like this, them guys going to some of them going to get head coaching jobs. Them guys going to get new jobs. That's what's going to happen to Deion's staff. A bunch of them guys is going to get new jobs. Hold on. A bunch of them guys is going to get new jobs. But, and let me ask you something, Blue, before I get off this line. You mean to tell me that Chance Army didn't start for Grambling? Who started for Grambling?
The JUCO transfer, Hawkins. And then they put Chance. No, they didn't put Chance in. They put the freshman in. Oh man, what is his name? So
them two guys was in front of Chance?
Yeah. And they moved the UCLA transfer to wide receiver, Holloway.
Okay, they moved the UCLA transfer to what now?
To wide receiver.
And that's another thing I was going to tell you. You were making a statement about that kid, that second string quarterback for FAMU. You can keep him on as a quarterback, but one of the things I think Willie look at the fact that either making Rashad McKay, because of his body and his structure, you can look at making him a tight end, a wide receiver, a defensive back, and if he's tough enough, you can even look at making him a linebacker. But that guy is too athletic to leave him on the bench. He's too athletic. You got to use him. Now, I personally, I'm like you. I think the quarterback situation is over with, but you can't let a guy with that much talent sit on your bench. He could be a running back. He could be a wide receiver. He could be a tight end, defensive back. And like I said, if he's a real man, you could make him a linebacker.
Oh, a linebacker. That'd be interesting. Grambling has a lot to prove.
Lou, have you ever looked at his physical structure? You look at how he's built.
He's athletic. He's got the size.
You can't leave him. You can't leave him on the bench. You got to utilize him. That's bad coaching. When you take a kid like that with that kind of athleticism, and then you leave him on the bench because he didn't make it at this position. No. You make that kid right there. Either make him a wide receiver, tight end, defensive back, or linebacker. Listen, Blue, I didn't talk to no. Listen, you and Blue, I want to say you're doing a great job. And listen, I think that game next week in Memphis is going to be a hell of a game. And by the way, is anybody televising that? Is that televised?
I think it's on ESPN Plus.
Okay, so the game up in Memphis is. Somebody keep asking about the FAMU band. Yeah, the FAMU band had to exit because a number of the students in the 100, they fell out today because of the heat. That's why they had to be. That's why the band was removed from the game.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the insight on that.
Have a good evening now. Thank you so much.
You too, Ms. Ford.
Bye-bye.
All right, let's see here. We got a million callers on here, man. We getting to everybody. 337, you're live.
Hey, Blue, I just got a couple things. This is Baptiste from Southern University alumni. One, do you think FAMU, what do you think happened to them, or do you think their talent was just that much lower than Jackson State's talent? That's my question. And then my comment is, I know your boy's going to go live at 8, but call Scotty, man. He's going to need all the support from his real friends after this weekend. Between Quincy Casey and Andrew Body and now the domination of FAMU, my boy took a lot of huge L's this weekend, man. So call your boy and check on him. Thank you, Blue.
Hey, appreciate you, man.
Between Quincy Casey
229, you're live.
FAMU took a lot of huge.
229.
Hello?
Hey, you're live, man.
Hey, appreciate you, man.
All right,
yeah,
turn
hey,
your background.
Blue, I have just want to say I love your program. I love the fact that you utilize data and facts and critical thinking. But hello?
Hey, turn your background down and just talk into the phone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I turned it down. I just want to say, I love your show because you utilize facts and data and critical thinking. I greatly appreciate that. One question. Jackson State's offensive line, do you think it can get better? And the transfer from USC, the 6'7", 390 pounds, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean he's that big, just as big as advertised.
Wow.
He won't be
Where do you see
eligible
that
until next
offensive
season.
line going?
Say that again.
Do you see the offensive line significantly improving, and do you see him as part of that offensive line? I think his first name is Maximus or something like that.
The offensive line looked improved today. The problem is I don't think any of the offensive linemen who started today graduate next year. All of them have at least 2 years of eligibility. So when I'm just going to call them Max. When Max comes in, he's got to earn it because I think when he plays guard, he has tackle size but plays guard. When you look at Tyler Brown and you look at Evan Henry, man, those are two guys who are going to have so much experience and are going to be really hard to beat in a competition. And so I think he has the talent to play, but he might be a guy since he doesn't come in till he won't be eligible till 2023. He might be like that sixth man of that offensive line unit, and I think you possibly could see him start on the 2024 O line when Brown and Henry both graduate.
Okay. Hey, thanks, Blue. I greatly appreciate it. Continue doing what you do.
Hey, appreciate you, man. $269, you're live.
Hello?
Hey, you're live, man.
Yeah, what's up, Blue? Those Ford talk so long, man. I didn't think I was gonna ever speak to you.
Hey, man, the call line's never buzzing like this, man. I'm glad the season's here, but I appreciate you hanging on, man.
Yeah, man, no doubt, man. I appreciate everything you do. I like your show. Like to connect with you later, but let's talk about Jackson State. I feel like Deion Sanders is just duplicating Alabama in this way. I feel like Shador, his growth from last year to this year was tremendous. His timing with his receivers, I did not expect all that. Like what I saw, they look like the Alabama of the SWAC. It looked like they got a train and they about to run over everybody. It don't look good. It probably should step up and play better competition to really see where they are. That's about it, man. I can't really come up with nothing, man. Coach Ford talks so long, so. But love your show.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for calling in.
All right.
407, you're live.
Hey, Blue, how you doing?
What's good, man?
Nothing much, sir. This is JB. I call into off script an awful lot, man. Just wanted to catch your show, man. I like what you do. Check this out. Before I get into my thoughts about week one, I have to address some comments that were made earlier. And I'm saying this, I'm not even an A&T alum, but I got to speak on this stuff right here. First of all, when you're moving to a different conference, there is something called growing pains that every single program, every single coach, every single athletic director and stuff has to go through, especially when your program is building in terms of athletic budgets, in terms of endowments, in terms of building size, in terms of campus in general. There's going to be some steps that I'm taking there. So I think when people talk about a program as being a vagabond program, I think it's really kind of, I don't want to use the term ignorant. That's why the kind of term I could use right now. I think what's happening is you have a generation, and I'm sorry, I'm going to get this right for a second. Please bear with me. You have a generation that is used to living in a certain time, a certain kind of bubble, I guess. And what makes people like that threatened is the fact that schools like A&T and like Hampton, they're doing things outside the traditional HBCU bubble, and the people who are the purists haven't figured out how to quite accept that yet. So I think that before people talk about a program being ran into the ground and being a bag of my program, whatever the hell else they used, that's I get older generation, they need to check themselves. Now, in terms of the games this weekend, Jackson State looked very, very good. They looked very good today. They beat down FAM. I was very surprised of how that score turned out. And I do think what you or the caller said earlier about these games later on, like against Tennessee State, against Campbell, that's where the barometer comes. Because if you're good, like you are right now, you're beating other SWAC teams, which isn't bad. However, what we both know, the true test comes when you go outside the conference. Like Tennessee State, they put in some work this weekend against Eastern Washington. Even though Alcorn lost last night, that was a hell of a game they had against Stephen F. Austin. Our teams, some of the teams are really starting to develop. But the other thing is, and Brooke, I want to get your opinion on this, coaching in the SWAC. I saw some decent coaching jobs, like Eddie George yesterday did a damn good job against Eastern Washington. And then also Coach McNair against Stephen F. Austin didn't do a bad job either. But then we saw Willie Simmons today, and then we saw Maynard on Thursday, I think it was, or Friday, I forgot the exact day. What do you think is the biggest barrier is to coaching in the conference, and how can it improve, if it can improve?
I mean, it's hard because I think the biggest thing when you look outside of Jackson State, because we've already just talked about how good Shador is in terms of running the offense and things like that. When you look at what happened with Valley, they should have beat Tarleton State, but
yes,
the wrong guy was out there at quarterback, man. They could not throw the football, man. Caleb Johnson went crazy, but it was just they didn't have the quarterback play. And if you have a quarterback that has the poise and the command of the offense like you need and can make just those, if Valley had a quarterback that could make 5 to 8 big time throws, man, they beat Tarleton State. And Alcorn State last night, man, they had every chance to beat Stephen F. Austin. They were up 24-10 at halftime and scored 3 points in the second half. And it had nothing to do with coaching. It had nothing to do with quarterback play. It was just special teams. It just seems like when these teams go and play out of conference, or some of them at least, there's always one or two things that just cost them the game. And it was crazy because Alcorn State averaged, I think, 8 yards a carry as a team on Stephen F. Austin. Allen did not turn the ball over. What happened was Alcorn State, they shanked 3 straight punts and gave the ball to Stephen F. Austin inside the 50, and that led to points. While Stephen F. Austin's punter was an FCS All-American and pinned Alcorn State 4 times inside the 20 and 2 times inside the 5-yard line. Then they ran a pooch punt, and Trey Self pinned them at the 1-yard line. That was the difference in the game. Right there. That was it.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So what are your thoughts about I was going to ask you something. It turns out that both me and you called the Delaware versus Navy upset correctly. That's what I was told yesterday.
Man, they look like a better team from the jump, man. Delaware is going to be terrifying in the CAA.
Exactly. And there are two, both FCS or FBS upsets involve CAA teams. I mean, like William and Mary pretty much ran over Charlotte, like they weren't even there. And then, of course, the Delaware game yesterday. But I know you probably got some other calls to get to, Blue, but just thank you for your time. Thank you for letting me to call in. And just appreciate you, man.
Hey, appreciate you, man. Thanks for the call.
Thank you, sir.
Last caller here, man. Then we're going to get into the recap. I know a lot of people want to hear about the Alcorn State game and some other ones, and we're going to talk about the PV game. I got some thoughts on that one, but let me get to this last caller here.
Game and some other ones.
615,
we're going to talk
you're
about
live.
the TV game. I got some thoughts on that one. But we get to this last caller here. Game.
615, you're live.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, love your show. Let's talk about the Tennessee State game. Those two miscues that were the two fumbles that Ellis had. Of course, one was unforced, and then the other one was a strip sack. Was the difference in that game? If that doesn't happen, I think we win that ball game. And that's just my opinion. Shout out to Eastern Washington. They showed a lot of class. It wasn't any kind of rude kind of behavior or anything like that. Anytime you got a team playing that far away from home, they could have been really crappy to Tennessee State, but they showed a lot of class. I was really impressed. TCU is night and days better than what they were the first game last year. I think the offensive coordinator, he needs to be a little more creative. Now, I don't know if they're trying to be vanilla because they didn't want to show a lot on offense or defense because they sit back in that zone. And the same thing's going to happen. Like, I'm a Tennessee State guy, but the same thing's going to happen to them as happened to FAMU today. If you sit back in the zone and then you try to rush forward and then let Shador sit back there and eat a bologna sandwich, I don't care if it's Johnny Boo Boo being quarterback. They're gonna pick you apart. You got to get pressure on the quarterback. You got to pick your poison. Either you're gonna send blitz or some type of scheme within the line, and then try to man up on the outside receivers. You're gonna have to pick your poison. And that's the thing with Jackson State, with FAMU today, is just they did basically what they did last year. They sit in a soft zone, they rush forward, and they paid the price for it. And that's just all there is to it. I'm not gonna call no wolf tickets because I'm not like a Jackson State fan, and we try to be all delusional and act like they're ready to go compete for the FBS national championship. And every team has its day in the sun. I mean, I know you're new to the HBCU world pretty much, but down through the years, everybody's had their day in the sun. Central State had their day in the sun back in the mid to late 80s. FAM had their time with the Rack Boys. Hampton had some good years, believe it or not. Everybody has their time. Tennessee State had their time. It's just Jackson State's time. So I'm not going to down them or player hate on them. They put together a good product. So come next week, we'll just see. It's going to be interesting. We'll just see how it plays out because football is a funny game. And one thing I'm telling you about the Southern Heritage Classic, and anybody who's been following the Southern Heritage Classic for years and been there, funny things happen in Memphis. Funny things go down. So just like FAM looked really great against North Carolina despite the circumstances, same thing with Jack State today. Everything was clicking. Everything's all good. But just one injury, one interception, hey, can change things. Okay? And Jeff Fisher's son is a pretty crazy defense coordinator. So, like I say, he didn't show a lot last week. And one thing about Draylen Ellis, he ain't going to hold the ball long. He's going to let it rip. And anybody going to be sitting back in the pocket. And plus, we're going to run the ball. So, we'll see how that plays out. It might help him, it might not. But it's going to be interesting next week. Let the best team win.
Hey man, I'm excited. I'll be in Memphis for that game. I can't wait to see that game live, man. But hey, I appreciate the call.
All right. Thanks.
Seven 3-2. You're live.
How you doing, Blue?
Yep, you're live, man.
How you doing, man? I just got one question for you. How long do you think Jackson State will be ready for like a South Dakota State or teams of that caliber?
I mean, like I said earlier, because one of the earlier callers also put me on the spot with that one. Listen, I think right now, just like a lot of voters have told me, watching this game, Jackson State's probably a top 10 team right now, and they can probably compete with a lot of the top 10, man. But I still think there's some people forget, man. It's so competitive at the top, man. Once you get in that top 10, anyone could beat anyone on any given day, man. So I'm not going to say Jackson State can't compete, but anyone thinking that they're going to go 9-0 against the other top 9 teams doesn't know FCS football. But they're right there, man. And I think another year of recruiting or so, man, it could be
That's what I'm
it could
saying.
be deadly.
Yeah, especially on the lines, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay. Thank you, man. That's all I wanted to know.
Hey, I
Thank you.
appreciate the call, man.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. That's the last caller here, man. I'm gonna give y'all the option, man. We've been live for an hour and a half. The two options are, man, we can go ahead and do this FCS recap right now, or we can come back live tomorrow night and just do a FCS recap as it's show, man. This real an hour and a half of Jackson State talk at the beginning, man. I wanted to give my instant reaction, man. So I'll let y'all comment what y'all want to do here, man. We can break the whole FCS down real quick, or we can wait till tomorrow night, man, and I'll do another FCS recap show, man, and we'll just call this the Jackson State FAMU instant reaction, man. So we got do the recap now. All right, man. Let's see. Yeah, FCS recap now. Let's do it, man. And also, all 421 people in here, man. Listen, I know every show in the country right now. Every single show, man. I got a lot of now, so we'll do it now, man. Every show in the country right now is probably live right now talking about the game, man. So the fact that y'all are tuned into this one, I appreciate y'all, man. Really and truly. Let's see. This man just lost some money betting against JSU. I can hear it in his voice. Jesus, man. Man, I got a lot of both here. Listen, here's what I'll do. I'll talk a little bit about it, but man, I'm gonna do another episode where I really break it down, man. But we'll kind of go over the scores and I'll give you all my initial thoughts. And I'm still gonna do a live stream tomorrow, man, because I really think y'all definitely need that, because I want to get y'all's calls on a lot of the other FCS games too. But just initially, man, listen, some of the top FBS versus FCS games, man. We had two big upsets this week, man, but two of the other ones I wanted to kind of address, get y'all's thoughts on. Iowa versus South Dakota State was interesting, man. 7-3. And yes, don't let that 7 fool you. Iowa did not score a touchdown. Iowa did not score a touchdown, man. That 7 was two safeties and a field goal. Two safeties and a field goal, man, got 7 points, and South Dakota State got a field goal. That game, man, South Dakota State had every single chance to win that game, and they just could not get any offensive consistency. Mark Gronkowski couldn't get going. Tucker Kraft got banged up, and they just weren't able to get across the 50, man. They had so many chances, and what it came down to was defense. Iowa, just like I talked about with Alcorn State, Stephen F. Austin, Iowa kept pinning South Dakota State back, and they had to try to put together 70, 80, 90-yard drives, and they just weren't able to do it against a really good Iowa team. And it was I was rooting so hard for all these FCS teams to pull the upset, man. That one was tough, man. Thank you, Kenneth, for the donation, man. I really appreciate that. And I was really surprised that South Dakota State couldn't pull that one out. But man, the way they performed, I know we're the first half of the show was really a Jackson State conversation. South Dakota State has an argument based on this performance to have one of the top FCS defenses in the country. That defense looks dangerous, man. That front seven for South Dakota State is legit. The one question I have is the secondary, because we know Iowa does not throw the football a lot. They have a lot of new pieces in the secondary. I want to see, I personally want to see how they perform against a pass first team. And they have some chances later this season. They got Missouri State coming in with Jason Shelley, and I believe they have Southern Illinois on that schedule too. And we know what Nick Baker can do. Now, let's get to Grambling. Let's talk about this, because I have a lot of thoughts on this game. And 404, I'll get to you in just 1 second. Let me talk about this game and I'll get to you. So 404 on the call line, I'll get to you in 1 second. Arkansas State, 58-3. 58-3. This, to me, and I remember people called me out on the round table, on my show, that this was an upset waiting to happen. Arkansas State beat them down. I mean, it was just as dominant as what UAB did to Alabama A&M. The quarterbacks weren't consistent. They could not run the ball. The offensive line was getting picked apart, and the defense could not stop a nosebleed, man. Grambling, to me, I have so many questions, because it's not that they played an FBS school and I'm going to knock them for that. It was just the effort. The effort just was not there. And I was expecting a lot more out of Grambling, because I kind of listened to you guys in the comments and people messaging me about, I feel like you were too hard on Grambling and they're going to compete better than you think. None of the quarterbacks looked like they were prepared to go out there and play. Maurice Washington couldn't get any room. The running game had 3-4 big plays, and the defense could get no pressure, and they made James Blackman look like a superstar. I expected more from Hugh Jackson and this coaching staff of Grambling State, and I just didn't think they went out there and gave their best performance. And even though it was an FBS versus FCS game, I have so many questions for Grambling State and Alabama A&M for the performances and the effort that they put out there. And I'll talk more about it tomorrow on the live stream. But the two upsets, William and Mary over Charlotte, 41-24 for William and Mary, 14-7 win for Delaware over Navy. Now, I called the Delaware Navy upset. I told you on the live stream, and if you had money, go put some money on Delaware. That team is loaded. Nolan Henderson is back at quarterback, Kedrick Whitehead back in the secondary. They had two all-conference guys on the defensive line. Navy was able to produce nothing. It was all Delaware all day long. And from the first snap, Delaware looked like the better team compared to Navy. It just was not even close. And I think Delaware, and I'm going to do my top 25 on this show too, man, for all of y'all who stuck around, man. That's y'all's reward, man. I'm going to drop my top 25 here that I'm going to submit tonight for the FCS Stats Perform. Both of these teams experienced jumps. I did not have William and Mary ranked in my last poll. They are in the top 25 now, and Delaware made a huge jump for where I had them at 12. And a lot of people were questioning why I had them at 12. This was a team who was probably a player or two away from making a national championship in the spring, and had some really big injuries this last season, and it really held them back. And talking to Kedrick Whitehead and some of the Delaware guys I've had on the show, they thought this was their year to really make an impact on the field, and they proved it, man. Both of these schools, even though the William and Mary one looks a little bit further away, it's almost a 20-point win. Navy Delaware was not really close for the most part of the game. Delaware controlled that game for almost 60 minutes. And so I'm always going to root for FCS over FBS. And William and Mary and Delaware get big wins in week 1. And that is 2 FBS wins for the CAA, man. And I was really, really impressed with the CAA this past weekend, man. But Delaware and William and Mary deserve all the credit. That William and Mary team was really slept on. I really didn't give them a lot of credit coming into the season. Nate Lynn and that defense is going to be a problem. And I mentioned earlier, they play Campbell next week in a huge future CAA conference game, even though it will be an out-of-conference game this year. Campbell, it has to be competitive against William and Mary next week if they really want to be respected in terms of the national FCS rankings. So William and Mary over Charlotte and Delaware over Navy were 2 amazing FBS over FCS wins. Now, I'm going to skip over my top 25 for now. We're going to look at some of these top FCS versus FCS games. Jackson State, FAMU, we just talked about that, man. 59-3 was a beat down, man. It wasn't even fair. But the other one, a top 15 matchup, man. Incarnate Word versus Southern Illinois, 64-29. You read that right. 64 points put up by Incarnate Word. And this is an Incarnate Word team led by a first-year head coach in G.J. Kinney. They have a new starting quarterback in Lindsey Scott taking over for Cameron Ward, who transferred to Washington State with the former Incarnate Word head coach. This is a team that a lot of people were overlooking. I had them 15th in my top 25, one spot behind Jackson State. And a lot of people were telling me they were guaranteeing that Incarnate Word would not finish the season ranked. They go out there against a top 10 MVFC team and put up 64 points on them, and it was never close. It went through a rain delay. It went through a technical difficulty delay. They had the lights go off in the stadium. It was crazy, man. Rain delays, weather delays happened all over the place. But man, 64-29, Lindsey Scott Jr. went crazy on this defense for Southern Illinois, which a lot of people thought were going to be great. And the defense for Incarnate Word, who came into the season with a lot of question marks, really and truly shut down one of the most explosive offenses in the country last year, averaging over 35 points per game in Southern Illinois, with Nick Baker returning the leading rusher and Javon Baker. Now, Avante Cox, the all-conference wide receiver, didn't play. But to hold them to under 30 points and you put up 64 in front of your home crowd, when dealing with weather delays, dealing with technical difficulties that stopped the game, GJ Kinney and this Incarnate Word team proved this weekend that the Southland goes through Incarnate Word again, goes through San Antonio. A lot of people were giving it to Southeastern Louisiana because of everything that Incarnate Word lost. They are the favorites right now in the Southland, and I was so impressed with their performance this weekend against a really good, or what was supposed to be a really, really good Southern Illinois team. So I have to give them all the credit in the world for that win, man. And man, listen, man, Crazy Criminal, man, I appreciate you for the donation too. I definitely appreciate y'all. Now, the Aggie Eagle Classic, and I'm kicking myself on this one because if you've watched the show, you know how high I have been on Central. Like all preseason, I was telling you guys how good I thought Central could be under Trey Oliver, with Richard at quarterback, with some new running backs stepping up, with that offensive line developing with Corey Bullock, that defense led by Codrington in the secondary. And I didn't go with my gut, man. I bought into the A&T hype and I went with the wrong team, man. And this upset, or quote unquote upset, does not surprise me in the slightest. It really doesn't. I mean, I think Central is a bona fide MEAC contender. And they went out there and Richard put on the performance of his life. And call me a believer at whatever he's selling, because I could not believe how he played, man. 20 for 32, 200 yards, two passing touchdowns, rushed for another 54, and rushed for 2 touchdowns. I mean, they came out firing on the offensive side of the football. And then on the other side, they did a great job of slowing down the rushing attack of A&T. I was very surprised, man. A&T only rushed for 82 yards. They did average 5 yards per carry, but when you take out Zachary Yeager's scrambles and his ability to get outside with his feet, the leading running back was Tootin, who was one of my players to watch. He only had 20 yards rushing, 2.9 yards per carry. And then Hooker, Cook, and Graves combined for 3 carries for 3 yards. They could not run the football with their running backs, man. If you take Yeager out, they could not do anything on the ground. And I think that speaks to the development of the front seven for North Carolina Central. I was extremely impressed with Central's whole performance. And this is what I told you guys. I don't know how many people were tuned into that live stream. It was right after it was the media day recap that I did after I went through all the media days. And I told you guys that Trey Oliver was one of the most confident coaches and just spoke with an aura, or just a persona about him, that really and truly made me buy into that program. He spoke so confidently about the development of his players. the mindset of just his team and his coaching staff and how they felt like they let last season get away from them. And I think when you look at Trey Oliver, the motivation coming off of this win right now, I don't care if South Carolina State played UCF. Right now, I think Central has to probably be the favorite right now in the MEAC to come out with that championship. And if they get to Atlanta, this is a team that people are going to have to look at, because I mean, last year, even going up against Alcorn State, people overlooked them, including myself. I'll buy into that. But Central is going to be a team to deal with. They got some big games against Campbell, against South Carolina State in conference. This team has some chances to really shake up some polls and things like that. And if they can get rolling, do not be surprised if they enter some of the top 25 polls for FCS stats per form for the coaches poll. This is a very talented team, and we all know on this show, I always talk about you have to have the guy at quarterback. If you're going to be a top team, they have a guy, and Richard came out there and proved that he has really developed as not just a passer, but just an overall playmaker. And so I think right now, Central proved themselves. And here we go. Look, 3 drives for Central for 70 plus yards for 3 touchdowns. 70 plus yards for 3 touchdowns. It was impressive. But you see, Edwin, here's the only thing I'll say is because South Carolina State and Central, I don't think were that far apart last year. I really don't think there was like this big gap from South Carolina State to Central and the rest of the MEAC. I think right now, if I'm looking at roster spot and the performance, I think Central's right there with them, man. And I could be wrong. We'll see. That game is on my list. I might try to make it to that Central South Carolina State game, but I don't think the divide was very big last year, Edwin. And I think that's the only reason I feel like that Central could have the leg up right now. Central felt disrespected. Man, they even called they even came out, was it HBCU game day on their poll? He was like, "Yeah, I saw where you ranked us," and he was like, "That's ridiculous. There's not that many teams better than us." And for a coach, I'll take that, man. I love when a coach believes in his team enough to put his word on the line for them. Now, look, man, this one hurts. I'm gonna be honest, man. Almost 300 people in here. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. This one hurts so much to talk about because Tennessee. I was rooting so hard for Tennessee State this weekend to pull this one out, man. I was the only person in FCS media to put everything on the line and pick Tennessee State. And starting out in the game, they came out firing. I'm talking about right out of the gate. They forced a punt, and then their first play, Ellis hits I believe it was Dobson for a 67-yard touchdown, and then the next drive they force a fumble. Tennessee State came out so hot, and I was so impressed with how this team looked. Now, before we get into a lot of Tennessee State, I want to give Eastern Washington credit. Even before Eric Berry, if you haven't paid attention to FCS football, Eastern Washington has had a string of very, very talented quarterbacks. And every time they lose one, everyone talks, how do you replace this guy? How in the world do you replace this guy, etc.? And they always seem to find the next guy. And it is so impressive. And Gunnar Talkington went off this weekend. 348 passing yards, 5 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and rushed for 60 yards for almost 7 yards per carry in his first ever start against a very talented defense. When we'll talk about some problems that I saw with Tennessee State's defense, I got to give Talkington some credit, man. He commanded the offense well. He made plays, and in a game that could have went either way, he showed that he was clutch and able to lead Eastern Washington on a game-winning drive that ended up being the game-winning drive late in that game. He could have easily made a mistake, but he takes them right down the field at the end of the game. Let me try to find the exact yardage. So Tennessee State, they come out of the rain delay, they get a field goal, force a quick punt for Eastern Washington, and they go and score a touchdown, 29-29. He goes on an 11-play, 75-yard drive for almost 4 minutes, where I think he accounted for almost every single yard that they gained on that drive. And listen, Gunnar Talkington proved to me that he is that guy for Eastern Washington, man. So I want to give him a shout out. But for Tennessee State, let me start here. And someone can clip this. I might clip it. Devin Starling proved to me, and I mean this with everything I'm about to say, Starling is the best running back in HBCU football. And it's not a debate. I'm not here for it. I love Quarles. I love Caleb Johnson. Devin Starling is that guy where he can do it through the air out of the backfield. He can run between the tackles. He can bounce it outside. He can be explosive against a front seven for Eastern Washington that had multiple all-conference guys on the defensive line, multiple guys returning at linebacker, where that defense could have has shut running backs down. He goes for 207 yards, a rushing touchdown, and also had 23 yards out of the backfield in just crucial moments. He picked up a big first down late in the third quarter out of the backfield where Draylen had nowhere to go and dumped it down to him. But 207 yards, averaging 8.3 yards per carry for the game. I want y'all to hear me right. 8.3 yards per carry. Man, he, especially with an offensive line that was unproven coming in, it's not like he's running behind a North Dakota State offensive line, a South Dakota State offensive line, or anything like that. What I saw this weekend from Starling, in my opinion, just respectfully to every other running back in HBCU football, he is the best running back in HBCU football right now. And I don't know if there's even a close second. And when I think in terms of FCS running backs this year, if he can continue he's not gonna run for 200 per game and average 8 yards per carry, but if he can finish the season with over 1,000 yards and average 6-7 yards per carry, man, Devin Starling has a chance to be an All-American at the end of the season. And next week, we saw FAMU. The key to the game was to run the football. They got away from it and put the ball way too much in Moose's hands when things got out of hand. If Tennessee State is able to keep the game close next week and run the football, that is a performance that I think he can make a case to be one of the best running backs in the country, man. If he can hit 100 to 150 yards against that Jackson State front seven, listen, there's no debate. He's a top 5 running back in FCS football. And I know some of the top FCS guys are going to look at me crazy. Turn on the film and look at what this kid's doing. And I think he deserves his flowers this weekend, man. I'm going to release an article probably tomorrow because this live stream's hitting 2 hours. So I'll probably drop it tomorrow. So it's going to be late. He's going to be one of my top performers of the week. I'm going to drop an article with all the top performers by position. Devin Starling is the number 1 running back on that list. Now, for Draylen Ellis, there were some positives, there were some negatives. Let's get into the positives. One, man, the kid is explosive. When you need an explosive play down the field, man, look for number 7. The 60-something yard pass, he hit a bomb. And then on top of that, there was one late where he hit a dude down the sideline. And I mean, he put it so close to the sideline. I don't know how the kid put his feet in, but he put it right where the DB could not catch it. And he was actually, he was 17 for 27, and a lot of those incompletions came late in the game, but he was very efficient early. And I'm really happy that some left, but they seem like they built the scheme around the quarterback. And I hate, and we can get into this about some examples, but I hate when coaches try to fit a quarterback into their system rather than trying to fit their system around the quarterback. You cannot recruit a player who does something great and you recruit him for doing that thing great and then try to force him into the box, into some box that he doesn't fit in, and then wonder why it's not working out. You have to build your offense around the quarterback. And I'm so happy, man. And I can't wait for the OVC coaches call this week, man. I'm going to talk to Eddie George about this week and probably drop either a video or an article, see if I can get the clip to post on the channel. I want to know what went into that because they did a great job with the read options. They did a great job with the RPO game. And when you have a running back like Starling making Eastern Washington load the box, they did a great job of dialing up perfect deep shot opportunities, and Ellis delivered on a lot of them. And so for me, Ellis's performance, I'm gonna give him a B minus. The interception toward the end, I get it was a desperation time, but you can't throw that play, man. That was like quadruple coverage. Throw the ball away and stay alive, man. You still had another down. That was a ridiculous throw. He can't throw that football. And then there's also times where I want to. It's the same thing I said with D Davis. There's too many times where he's trying to go make a play that doesn't need to be made right then. Just take the L on that play and move on. And so those are the just two negatives I saw. But man, overall, I'm gonna give him a B minus B plus for this performance. It was a great week one performance with a lot of new pieces. Now I want to see some wide receivers emerge. Now, Weish and Dobson caught 13 of the 17 passes. Holloman caught one, and Starling caught the other three. I need to see some variety, man. Where in the world was your all conference receiver, Zaire Thornton? I want to see some, in my opinion, I want to see some depth emerge at the wide receiver spot because when you face a Jackson State team next week, um, when you face them next week, you're going to need more than one wide receiver to really emerge, or two. You're going to need more than Dobson and Weiss. You're going to need 3, 4, 5 potential options, and you're also going to want to use Starling out of the backfield. But I think this was a great week one performance, man. Listen, they were what I think someone put in the chat that they were almost like 20-point underdogs, I think, in this game. Nobody was giving Tennessee State a shot outside of me in this space. I think this was a great performance. Listen, I know some people aren't into moral victories. If you're a 20-point underdog and you had a chance to win that game with less than 2 minutes left, man, I give them props. I do. Now, the one thing I am concerned about next week with Tennessee State, and I'll talk about it on the preview, injuries. Man, it seemed like Tennessee State as that game went on, which I don't blame anybody because this was a big physical team that, it was a physical game and it's week one and sometimes your body just isn't ready for that. But man, it seemed like they were losing players left and right to injury, offensive linemen, defensive linemen. It seemed like there were so many just random injuries for Tennessee State. And so I want to see how healthy they are next week, and I want to see them be fresh next week. They played Eastern Washington, man. That was a top 15 team in the country. Yeah, 22-point underdogs, and injuries were too much. I agree. Yeah, number 13. They were number 13 last week, but man, I was impressed. And just listen, I want to also say this. There's over 200 people still in here, man. Listen, like I said, I know there's a lot of other people live. I appreciate y'all tuning in here. I had a comment, and it's same guy who's commented on the past few videos. He says that I don't cover enough. He said he hates that I call them FCS previews and recaps because I don't cover every single FCS team. So I want to say, anyone watching this episode, if you have a team that you want me to talk about, hit me up. Just let me know, like, hey, I would love for you to talk about Abilene Christian, or I would love for you to talk about Mercer or Campbell or et cetera, man. Listen, I'm one guy. There's 130 FCS teams out there. Plus, we still talk FBS football. I'm only one dude. Can't cover every single game every single weekend. So if there is a game that you guys want covered each week, or a game that you guys want me to talk about on the recaps or previews, man, just comment, hit me up on social media, man. But listen, I'm still one dude. I cannot cover every single game, man. So I wanted to put that out there too, in case people thought I wasn't covering, enough FCS games. But some other games I just want to note before we get into the Alcorn State game. Some Thursday night games that, I really didn't get to talk about, man. Listen, Kennesaw State versus Sanford. Man, that game, let me just say this. Michael Ayers, the new quarterback that they have stepping in at Sanford, that kid's the truth. To come out in your first start against a top 20 defense and throw four tubs and did not show any fear. And for that defense, Sanford's defense has been the problem. And Sanford's defense allowed 240 yards rushing per game last season and allowed over 30 points per game. And they went out against the number one rushing offense from one of the number one rushing offenses from last season with a Walter Payton Award finalist in Xavier Shepard. Man, they went out there and shut them down. They shut them down to 17 points. And Sanford beat Kennesaw State. Sanford went out and beat Kennesaw State 27-17 on Thursday night. That is that is ridiculous, man. Sanford deserves a ton of credit, man. Listen, if I did like the ESPN helmet stickers, they get a helmet sticker, man. Sanford went out there and put on a show, man. Shout out to Michael Ayers in that offense. And man, I really want to give a shout out to their head coach. I got to talk to him at SoCon Media Day, and he told me he felt confident replacing all these guys. They went out there and made a statement, man. The SoCon with a huge upset win over a top 10 Kennesaw State team by 10 points, man. Also, I've talked about it a little bit, man. Campbell, man, they look good. I'll just say that, man. I was not expecting that team to run the football like that. Running back was one of the spots that I thought was iffy for Campbell. They went up against a really good, like not a really good. They went up against a strong Citadel team that gives a lot of people problems, man. You forget that. I mean, they held Bama to they held Bama to like 3 points in the first half last time they played. Campbell went out there and it wasn't even close. And Haj Malik Williams, man, fully healthy, is an absolute problem, man. He is so dynamic in the pocket. And if that defense, we don't know what their secondary looks like. Let me just say this. When you play a triple option team, you do not know what the secondary looks like. But if that secondary matches what that front seven can do, Campbell's going to be a problem in the Big South, especially when you look at how A&T looked. I was really, really impressed on Thursday night with Campbell. Also, Rhode Island gets a big win over Stony Brook, man, 35-14. That was another big win there that I wanted to touch on. Missouri State, the number 5 team in the country, they get a big win over Central Arkansas on the road, 27-14 on Thursday night. And that was a game that Missouri State's offense looked like they had a lot of rust early. They had a lot of trouble scoring, and it really took that second half and Central Arkansas making some mistakes for Missouri State to break that game open. But I just want to say this, man. Missouri State's offensive line concerns me. And they have an offense and they have skill positions and possibly a defense that is FBS national championship caliber. But what they don't have is an offensive line. If they went out and played, I mean, who do you want to give it to? I mean, if they went out and played North Dakota State, South Dakota State, or someone like that, which they play South Dakota State later this season, man, they would just tear up that offensive line. Missouri State has an offensive line problem, but in skill position wise, they are elite. I'm interested to see how that team matures throughout the season. Now, Southern Utah, big win over St. Thomas. I've already talked to Tarleton, Mississippi Valley State game. That was a huge that was a huge missed opportunity for Dancy and Valley, in my opinion. Now, some of the close FBS losses that night, man. Listen, Portland State only lost 21-17 to San Jose State. I really, really thought that they were going to pull that one out, and I was really rooting for them. St. Francis taking Akron to overtime on Thursday night. Man, that one was a must-have, man. St. Francis had every chance to win that game, and I hate that they lost that one. Also, Eastern Kentucky, 42-34 loss to Eastern Michigan. That was another must-win. That Eastern Kentucky team is going to be a sleeper in the ASUN. With how bad Kennesaw State looked, do not be shocked if Eastern Kentucky might come out the ASUN this year. So that's something to watch, man. I'll be at that game. It's the last weekend of November. I'll be at the Eastern Kentucky Kennesaw State game. I'm really, really excited to see that one. That was also the night William and Mary beat Charlotte. Holy Cross gets a big win over Merrimack. Now for Saturday, man, real quick. Bethune-Cookman, listen, I know they gave up 70 toward the end. It was 70-13 final. Early, Jalen Jones in that offense looked really good. I think Bethune-Cookman, I want to see that team against some SWAC teams. I think Bethune-Cookman could really surprise some people. On the preview, I talked about this game, Western Carolina, Charleston Southern. I said I picked it just because if you like to see points, that is the game you want to watch. They put up 90 total points that game. Western Carolina gets to win 52-38. It was a huge win for Western Carolina. That is a program that on my SoCon preview, I talked about how Western Carolina was my sleeper. Charleston Southern was supposed to have a pretty good defense, and Western Carolina boat raced them to the end. Western Carolina is a team to watch, man, just because of the points they can put up. And so I want to see what Western Carolina looks like against some of those SoCon teams that are going to bring a lot of physicality to the game. Now, Jacksonville State beats Davidson, of course. Youngstown with a big win over Duquesne was another game I wanted to mention. Also, Montana looks dominant. Montana looked dominant against Northwestern State. I know Northwestern State isn't, the top of the top at the SoCon, but 47-0. Montana looked really good, and I had them number 3 in my first top 25. This might be the year you could see Montana and Frisco, depending on how the bracket works out. Montana and Lucas Johnson looks like the guy at quarterback. We'll see how he fares in some Big Sky play. But I told people I really like Montana over Montana State this year because I thought Johnson was the guy at quarterback transferring over from San Diego State. I think Montana could be the team to beat right now in the Big Sky. They put on an excellent performance, and we know what Justin Ford and that defense can do. Shut out Northwestern State this weekend. North Dakota State 56-14 over Drake. As a team, they averaged like 8 yards a carry. No surprise there. Drake took a 7-0 lead, and North Dakota State outscored them 56-7 the rest of the game. We'll just leave that there. Another big game. There was another one I want to talk about. I'm scrolling through here. Hampton over Howard. I missed that one. I can't believe Howard lost. We won't even talk about them. Now let's get into this one. Okay, we got to talk. Just listen. I know some PV fans might want to call in, and listen. No offense. Listen, I love Miss Body. I love Mr. Body. I can't wait to meet you guys when I come out for that Texas Southern game. Texas Southern. I am just so upset. Andrew Body against PV without Jason Dumas, without Drake Cheatham. Andrew Body went a smooth 7 of 17 for 53 yards, 1 interception, and 9 yards rushing on 10 carries. The silence was there for a reason. I don't know. Listen, I went and watched some highlights and as much of the game as I could when I got home, and I just couldn't sleep because I was already stressed trying to get back home. And I texted Scotty, and because he texted me, I was like, man, we got to talk about this PV Texas Southern game. And I texted him, I was like, man, is my ESPN app messing up, or did PV beat Texas Southern by almost 20 and didn't complete a pass? Yeah, you heard me right. PV put 40 points on Texas Southern and was 0 for 6 with 2 interceptions. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Listen, I talked to some of the players on the defense. I talked to Craig. I talked to Mr. and Mrs. Bodyman. I love all y'all. But this is embarrassing. This is embarrassing. 0 for 6 for 2 interceptions, and you allow 40 points? That is brutal. Listen, just listen to some of these Russian stats. Stewart, starting running back, 22 carries, 119 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Antone, 24 carries, 115 and a touchdown. And Conley, the quarterback who was there at Media Day for PV, I said, man, I didn't believe in him as a passer. Well, man, I had no idea they were about to run the wing T offense from the 1930s. Conley had 8 carries for 109 yards and 2 touchdowns, man. He averaged like 14 yards per carry. I just listen, this was the most shocking game of all time. I mean, Texas Southern, what they put up, they barely put up any offensive points. Listen, they put up 23 points, and one was a pick six. I mean, Texas Southern looked atrocious. And listen, I love Andrew Body's game, and I love some of the players on that team, but there's a disconnect somewhere. Either the players are performing great in practices and can't do it when they turn the lights on, or the coaching isn't something's up with Texas Southern, man. You cannot allow a team to go over 6 with 2 interceptions in the passing game and beat you by damn near 20 points. That is outrageous. Man, I was so pissed when I saw this and just watching the highlights. PV might have something with that offense. Listen, that PV defense looked great for what I saw. And on top of that, they really and truly might have found something because what we know is you run that type of offense when I mean, I'm not going to say when you have less talent, but it's supposed to be for teams that, you know, that they want to put you in awkward situations like Army, Navy, the Georgia Tech back in the day, Georgia Southern, etc. I mean, it's hard to stop, and they might have found something, man. Because if they can do this, I if they can do this every week, man, PV might be a damn SWAC conference contender. Listen, I want to apologize to all the PV fans out there. I apologize to the coaching staff, the players. I slept on PV so hard, man. I picked them 5th in the division on Ken Clark's show. Listen, PV right now, with how bad Grambling looked, with how bad Texas Southern looked, with UAPB almost losing to a D2 team, man, listen, PV might be the second best team in that division right now behind Southern. I listen, I give PV all the credit, man. All the people who were calling me out for my prediction on that and everything. Listen, I want to apologize to PV because that offensive design and the execution was a magnificent. I'll even use that word. We using weird words today, but that was amazing to watch. And so, man, I give PV all the credit in the world. Shout out to them for that performance because man, they went out there and really put it on Texas Southern. And yeah, man, listen, that division does not look great after this first week. That they really do not look. Yes, I mean, yeah, Alcorn is probably up there. We'll talk about that game. I was going to put that one last. Yeah, the other game. I mean, listen, I'm not giving Southern any credit. They put up 80. They beat Florida Memorial in NAIA school 86-0. No credit. No credit at all. I can't. I'm not even gonna fake. I don't care. That's ridiculous. And they should have put Dancy in the overnight jail. They would have had to put him in jail for that because there was no reason to run the score up like that. That was ridiculous. Man, after you score 6, like you had UAB taking knees with like 7 minutes left in the game inside the red zone, and Dooley was up there trying to put 100. Come on, man. That is ridiculous. 86-0. Get out of here, man. I don't that was embarrassing. I cannot stand that. That is ridiculous. Like I remember I said it on the live stream earlier. I was sitting in the press box and it was me, G, one of the Alcorn State network people, and then Brian Harvey, who let me say this. Love you, Brian, man. Thank you for everything this weekend in Lorman, man. Brian Harvey is the best SID that I've ever dealt with at the FCS level right now. Him and Nick Guerrero from Tennessee State, man. Those two guys are great. I love both of them guys. But we all were sitting there in the rain delay, and we all were like texting and calling people to make sure that score was legit. G was calling J Max and everything, making sure that wasn't the case. But I mean, 86, come on, man. That is disrespectful as hell. That is so disrespectful. I'm not giving you any credit until you listen. I get it. You had to pad the stats because next week against LSU, we'll see. You might need those 86 points to keep them points per game average up, but you're not getting any credit from me on this show, man. 86-0. That is ridiculous. I should have put Dooley right in the Baton Rouge jail for the night. Another big game though. McNeese, Montana State. I picked this one on listen, let me go to my score predictions real quick because I want to give myself a little bit of credit. I might not have hit them right on the dot, but damn, I mean, some of these predictions on the games that I hit on were very, very close. And one of these was the McNeese State, Montana State game, which I want to say this. Montana State, man, early you could tell there was some rust, or McNeese under Gary Goff is just that good. They are just that good. And I was impressed with McNeese in game one of Gary Goff. I was very impressed. But and Montana State pulls away at the end, 40-17. But listen, McNeese early in the game, they went down by 7 at halftime, and then in the third quarter, things kind of got out of hand. But um, it really came down to the quarterback play for McNeese late in the game. I think, uh, I was surprised Ransom didn't start. Ransom was listed as the starter, but then didn't start. They started Kadum, and he only completed, I believe, completed just under 50% of his passes, 2 interceptions. I thought Ransom was the guy there, but we'll see moving forward if they if they go out there and do that. But the run game was impressive, man. Durham was out there really, really doing his thing. I was very surprised. Pierce was the leading receiver, but I didn't see them involve Ala Brown very much. And I thought he was going to be the guy in the slot that they really leaned on to be special. But we'll see about McNeese. But man, for Montana State, for them to run the ball like they did without Isaiah Afonso, the FCS All-American running back, was out with an injury. Man, I was impressed with the run game. I believe his name was Sumner and White. Jesus, them boys are problems. Sumner had 24 carries for 176 yards and averaged 7.5 yards per carry, while White went out there and put up 89 yards on 7 carries for 12.5 yards per carry. Montana State's offensive line and run game were on fire. Tommy Malott was efficient as always, man. 182 for 2 touchdowns through the air and had 44 yards rushing with another rushing touchdown. And this rushing attack, when they get Isaiah Afonso back, man, watch out. But man, let me get to this caller real quick here. 318, you're live.
Yo, what's going on, Blue? How are you?
Not bad, man. Not bad. How about you?
I'm doing well. Hey, this is Lionel calling from Houston. First off, just appreciate you and everything you're doing for especially FCS programs. Opportunity for us to just come on and speak. I actually wanted to just share because I'm a TV grad, and for me, when to me, I have respect for TV, and I think people don't. Even when we talk about the 80-game losing streak and all that, to me, like, I got much respect for the school because when you talk about the difference in programs, and you specifically always bring up the scholarship differences, right? From an FBS program to FCS level program. The reality is TV during all these many years, the football program, quote unquote, it wasn't a program, right? It wasn't an FCS level program, right? I mean, it wasn't even NAIA level program, to be honest. For many of those years, they were, just intramural, whoever just was on the team. And in none of that period of time did they say, hey, we're going to slide out of the SWAC. We're not going to compete, with people we've been competing with these last years. They just stayed there and got their butt whooped the whole time. And so to me, I got a lot of respect for them. But when you consider and for me, I look at it like something can be truth, but it's not the truth, right? It's true that they have this long losing streak. It's not truth that the football program, quote unquote, is a bad program. When you look at TV, since we've had full scholarships from 2004, and people can look this up, right? One, when you talk about Texas Southern, we've completely demolished Texas Southern. We're 16-3 against Texas Southern and since that time, right? Since both of us have been on the same level playing field as far as full scholarships, we've completely demolished them, right? When you talk about win percentage, Prairie View, it has the second highest win percentage in the SWAC over that period of time. Now, of course, we haven't had as many championships as other schools, right? But we're tied for fifth with Alcorn, right? And obviously Grambling during that period of time was really the juggernaut, and that's many times where we end up falling behind. So when we talk about, and a lot of these kids who are coming up now, they're not remembering TV from a long time ago, back in the day, like a lot of people will think of the Prairie View back then, right? They see what's going on now. They see that this is a school and a program that does care about sports and athletics and football. And they see that this is a school that is willing to compete. Prairie View has gone out all the time. We talk about scheduling other FCS programs. Prairie has been scheduling other FCS programs, whether win or lose, right? Incarnate Word, we talked about going up against Lamar, Abilene Christian, or Sam Houston State, or even Sam Houston when they was really hot, right? I mean, we played, all the other FCS programs, we've been willing to play them, right? All in our backyard with this, Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, right? So we're willing to compete. And as far as, and I'm just speaking about football, right? But the truth is, if we span it out and look at all athletics across the board, Prairie View has continued to compete and continue to go out there and win and still winning championship teams. We talked about basketball, we've gone on, but we stick with football here, right? But my point is, it's going to take time for people to that narrative to change. But the like I say, something can be true and it's not the truth, right? The truth is, Prairie View's football program is not only is it not a bad program, it's actually a very competitive program, right? And it has continually been that. But I know that the narrative is gonna take a while for people to continue winning, right? Continue vying for SWAC West titles, SWAC championships, for people to start saying, you know what, this isn't. We keep talking about this 80-game losing streak like this is like we was on a level playing field and we wasn't, right? And TV is in a perfect location to me, right, to continue to add here and there in the transfer portal, to just dip in and pull one or another person. Because look at where we are located wise in Texas. It's great. We don't need to go the route of others like Jackson, right? Who look, we don't got that ability to do, what Jackson does, right? We got to stick to our guns, look at something like what Buddy Q does at South Carolina State, and say let's take that route. And I know people didn't like this hire. A lot of even our alum didn't really like the hire. But even across the board, when we look at Willie, we've had Willie Simmons, we've had Eric Dooley, right? We've had some great coaches even come through this athletic program. So to me, the whole narrative, right, is really just people holding on to something that's way in the past and it's not really accurate. But we got to go out there and prove and change people's mindset. And I think, as we continue to move forward, that's what we're going to seek to do. So that's what I just want to share there.
So I'm assuming you're a PV fan and or alum. For you, how do you think this offense is going to fare moving forward through the season against the Incarnate Words, against the Southerns, and everything like that? Because this was a huge win for Bubba and this team, and it put a lot of people, including myself, on notice. How do you think this offense works against some of the top teams in conference and some of those big out of conference games you guys have?
Yeah, so the reality is, and I don't know if it's, I think it's two things. One, I really think Bubba really believes in the defense, right? I think that's the reality. I think a lot of people looked at, some of the pieces we lost, right? Drake and Dumas, right? And assumed that there was a step back as far as from a defensive standpoint. I believe the team themselves, I believe the coaching staff really believes the defense is where our strong suit is, right? And so just as I always think about the Jets from, Brian and that day, right? To say, look, we gonna hand the ball off 40, 50 times a game because we believe that we can win with our defense. I kind of believe that's what Prairie View believes right now, right? The reality is, though, you're not going to be able to go through the whole season with Conley throwing 6 times a game. It's not going to happen, right? Like, you don't have to become a passing team because, again, I believe we're going to lean on the run throughout this whole year. But we do got to open up the passing game some to make people be honest, right? And when you talk about going against Incarnate Word, talk about going against even Lamar, Abilene Christian later on in this year, Jackson, of course, these different. We don't have Jackson on schedule, right? But if we get to the championship game, Jackson, those teams, they're gonna play us differently, right? Look, TSU. I had no idea what they were doing the whole first half. They're like they're playing 5 D-backs, 6 D-backs. I'm like, why would I stop running? It don't even make sense. Of course, I'm gonna just keep running the ball down your throat. My line obviously is better than yours on the offense and the defensive side. I'm gonna stick to it. But for these other games, yeah, we're gonna have to open up the pass. We're gonna have to see if Conley actually can make the reads that he needs to make, right? But he doesn't need to go out here and be air raid, right? We can get in some of the extended running game, right, with some of the short screen passes, right? Wide receiver screens and things like that, right, to kind of make people be honest while also just, being very, very light on what we kind of put on his shoulders. But yeah, we're definitely going to see what it's going to be like, and we're going to really see if they're going to stick true to it, right? Because especially when you talk about Incarnate Word, I can see us getting down really quick in that type of game, right? To see what do we really believe our line is like that, right? To stick to the run, right, instead of pulling back and kind of doing what FAMU did against Southeastern Louisiana. So we'll see.
Oh, my bad. My mic came unplugged, but what's your prediction right
Okay.
now? What's your prediction right now for PV?
So as far as you're talking about throughout the year,
Yeah, like record wise.
yeah, I think. Look, I never thought PV was down, right? I mean, you got a team returning 16 starters. It doesn't in the SWAC, right? It doesn't make sense for this team to just completely fall, fall off the map, right? We saw what Grambling was this week. UAPB is always UAPB, right? So at worst, you look at Prairie being third in the SWAC West, right? That's to me that was the worst case scenario. But really, I believe it comes down to the Alcorn game and Southern game. Alcorn has always played PV very well, and the game is in Norman, so that's just the reality, right? That's a hump that we have to go up. We have to face that and get over it. Southern also is going to have a great team this year, right? So it really is going to come down to those two games. But I think Prairie View has a team that's strong enough to beat both of those teams, right? I don't think that either one of those teams is far and above Prairie View and where they are right now. I think these are going to be some evenly matched games. What it's really going to come down to is the turnovers. What I didn't like from this past game, and I think you mentioned it already, right? If you really look at the defense held Texas Southern 169 yards, period, point blank, right? And two of the touchdowns, really the defense only gave up 10 points if we're being straight, right? They gave up 10 points. The reality is they got a short field on the first touchdown, right? They got a short field on the second touchdown. Then they got a interception return for a touchdown, right? So really only one sustained drive throughout the whole game. And I don't think Southern's offense is Texas Southern offense, but I also believe that Prairie View's defense is actually real, right? So I think Prairie View actually has a very legitimate shot of making it to SWAC championship. I also think they're going to play very well against Abilene Christian, depending on the mistakes. If we can really minimize mistakes, I think we have a good chance of going there, have a good showing, possibly winning that game. And Lamar, I definitely think if we play well, we could beat a Lamar. Incarnate Word is one of the best teams in FCS, in my opinion. Look, I don't think we're going to win that game, right? But I think it's a good test for us, right? Especially if we're talking about looking at what Jackson did today. If we have aspirations to win the SWAC championship, that's a great game and a great time to test ourselves, right? To test if we're going to say we're going to stick to the run and we're going to, because look, hey, these boys is not playing. So it's going to be a great test for us, right? But this is why I like what we do with scheduling, right? We schedule games that are going to be very competitive, that we should actually have a chance to actually go out here and compete. And so I think Prairie View got a chance to get to the SWAC championship again, which is why we're trying to run it back.
So last question here, man. Hey, I appreciate the call, man. That's one of the best calls of the show, man. And we've been on here for 2.5 hours. But if Bubba wins the division, what do you think the narrative is going to be on that hire and on his career? And like, do you think PV fans and boosters and whatever really get behind him in terms of building the program up if he goes out and wins the division year one?
Definitely, right? Because this is the thing. I think because Bubba is such a different personality than Dion, he's completely looked at differently, right? You know what I'm saying? He's definitely very quiet demeanor, very straight, right? He's not very rah-rah. And it's a completely different personality from Dion. That's why people were bringing out the Ed Reeds or some of those different names as far as like, hey, let TV want to go after those type of names. And a lot of the alumni they had one side of alumni was on that side, the other side of alumni was on, we want somebody who's gonna be with us, who believes in our program, who believes they can make Prairie View what Eddie Robinson did for Grambling, or what Pete Richardson did over here at Southern, right? We want somebody who's gonna stick with us for the long run. And so if Bubba comes out and has a great showing, gets us back to that place this year, I think they're gonna, throw their arms around him and embrace him, because at the end of the day, Bubba's been here for 10 years, right? That's what people don't realize, right? Like he's been a part of the Prairie View program for a long time, right? And so if he shows that, okay, I can go out and recruit, I can get guys in, I can get people excited about playing for Prairie View, playing at PV, right? Which I believe he's showing that here and there with some of the splashes he's making in the recruiting scene, especially local in Texas, which again, people want him to be able to recruit in Texas. And then it's going to be looked at totally differently now if he wins with his NFL pedigree, because he has NFL pedigree, but again, not like Dion. But now if he wins oh, that's going to get elevated too. Like, oh, he played for the Oilers. He was a good defensive back in the league. So now that's going to get, riled up, right? Even the thought process of where Prairie View has had a couple of good DBs come through here, right, the last few years. Now that narrative is going to change to say, well, is it the DBs or is it the coaching? You know what I'm saying? Like, even that is going to change, and that narrative is going to be out there, right, to say, hey, you come here, I can help develop you to where a Kansas State is going to come in here and want to swoop you up, for last year, right? So, the narrative is definitely, how it is, right? Winning cures a lot of ills, right? And like I say, Prairie View continue to win is going to change the whole thought process around Prairie View for the whole SWAC period, right? People, as much as people will continue to say 80 games this, 80 games that, because we understand the reality of what that history was. That's why I guess for a lot of us it don't bother us, because we know, hey, on the level playing field with our facilities that we got, when people walk on Prairie View and actually see Prairie View's campus, look, I came from Louisiana. I came from Grandma backyard. When I walked and saw Prairie View's campus, no lie, I'm not saying it just because I'm alum. I walked there and it's like, dang, this is a beautiful campus. Like, this is the only thing that was off was the football stadium at that time, and now state of the art facility, right? So, I definitely think it's going to change that narrative, man. And we just got to wait to see how the rest of the season plays out.
Hey man, I appreciate that call so much, man. Thank you so much, man. I hope you be calling in later this season too, man. I'm excited to see PV over these next few weeks, man. They got some big games, but I agree. Abilene Christian and Lamar are winnable games, and those will be big out of conference games for you guys.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you, Blue. I listen to most of the stuff all the time. I just normally catch it late. Don't normally catch it live. But if I catch it live, I definitely try to call in for sure.
Hey, man, I appreciate you. Have a great one.
All right, bye.
Man, that was a great call. More PV fans got to call in. If it's gonna be like that, man, way more PV fans have to call in. But man, we're hitting 2.5 hours here. Real quick, Sacramento State also over Utah Tech in a big win. That's a big team, man. But the game I know everyone wants to talk about, and it's Stephen F. Austin, Alcorn State. And I got to be at that game. Like I said, man, shout out to Brian Harvey, SID over at Alcorn State, man. Listen, he went out of his way to make sure that like everything was taken care of, man. I had media credentials for the press box. I had sideline passes, man. I got a lot of great clips and everything, man. I'm gonna try to find a way to put that together for you guys, either on my social media or on the YouTube channel, man. Let me know, like, would y'all rather just have like, it's not gonna look like cut day or anything, but just like a rough highlight, some of the clips I got, pictures, everything put together for a video, or how would y'all want that presented, man? I'll ask you guys. But this game, again, rain delay, man. The kickoff was supposed to be 6 o'clock. We didn't kick off till way later than that. And I knew as soon as it hit it, I mean, it hit it hit late, and I was just upset. Also, man, that reminds me, man. Let me pull this up real quick. Shout out to Mr. Kincaid, man. Man, I got to make myself full screen for this one. Got me a big Alcorn tile, man. Listen, shout out to you for this, man. Listen, I'm gonna find somewhere to put it. I got the Alcorn helmet back there, man. But shout out to Mr. Kincaid for that, man. I got to meet him at the tailgate and everything like that, man. Shout out to you. I appreciate you reaching out to me, man, and get me this. I'm gonna find a place to put it in the background for the rest of these shows, man. But I wanted to give you a shout out on the stream. Let me set this back down. I got to make sure not to break that thing, man. You should have seen security, man. That looked at it. They were like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "Just let me in. It's all good." But I definitely enjoyed meeting you. Got to meet G. Got to meet some of the coaches, man. Listen, me and I'll drop everything later this week. I got a coach from Alcorn that wants to do a joint show, so it's going to be like the coach's corner on the Bluebloods, and each week me and him are going to come at it from different perspectives. I'm going to use the analytics, the analyst perspective to preview and recap some games, and he's going to bring the coaching aspect and really break down some X's and O's. So I can't wait to drop that show this week, man. So stay tuned for the announcement on that. But man, for this game, Alcorn State had every chance to win this game and come out on top. It was, I mean, they had every single ounce of momentum and energy in that stadium going their way going into halftime. They come out, big stop against Stephen F. Austin, drive it straight down the field. Juan Anthony gets a big touchdown pass, 18 yards from Aaron Allen. Then they go back and hold Stephen F. Austin to a field goal. So it's 7-3. And then Stephen F. Austin jumps up 10-7. But then, man, things got out of hand for Stephen F. Austin, man. The Alcorn drives down, gets a field goal, another big pass from Alcorn, and then listen, Howard, the Syracuse running back transfer, is a problem. Listen, seeing that guy in person, he is different. And even just watching his game, Howard had 21 carries for 194 yards and a touchdown. He averaged 9.2 yards per carry in his first ever game for Alcorn. I just want to make sure y'all heard me. That he averaged almost 10 yards per carry, man, in his first career start. It blew my mind how just explosive he really was. And so I want to give him a shout out. Like, he did an excellent job. The offensive line for Alcorn is really and truly improved. And hang on, I'm gonna share the video file, man. So listen, just to let y'all know, man, this is exclusive. This is just gonna be on this show, man. I'm gonna play the clip of his big touchdown run that I got from the sideline, man, and he hits the hole, and there's no. Nobody was touching it. It was I don't know if you can hear it on the microphone, but I'm talking about that. It is explosive, and I was really, really impressed, just with his overall game. And let me pull myself back up here. But listen, that play, I thought it was over. That was the play right before halftime, man. He took that. It was one of the last drives right before halftime, and I'm talking about G and the sidelines, but every single person in that stadium was celebrating, even if you weren't even an Alcorn fan. I mean, he hit the hole so fast. And then Duffy averaged over 6 yards per carry. I mean, as a team, Alcorn State rushed for 285 yards and a touchdown. And Aaron Allen, his accuracy, his accuracy has to improve, but overall, he just I feel like he did good for his first start, man. I think if I had to guess, man, I think it was his first start. You could tell once things started kind of getting out of hand, he got a little nervous toward the end and made some mistakes, man. That interception he threw really wasn't his fault. It got tipped. The wide receiver dropped it pretty much, and the safety was right there to pick it off. So I'm not going to blame him for that. But I thought Allen had an overall decent day. And when I look at the difference in the game, and I talked a little bit about it earlier, with special teams in the second half, Stephen F. Austin went berserk on special teams. They did a pooch kick first, pinned them inside like the 3-yard line, and then their punter pins them inside the 24 times, inside the 10 or 5, like twice. And so you're making Alcorn State drive the entire length of the field, and they would drive like 20, 30 yards, but then it would fizzle out. They couldn't establish consistent drives in the second half, and it put their defense on the field for way too long, and you could just tell the fatigue caught up to them. And then every time their punter tried to punt, it was a wrap. And he shanked like 3 punts in a row that all led to Stephen F. Austin points. And that was the difference in the game. Stephen F. Austin was starting the game from inside Alcorn State territory, while Alcorn State had multiple drives where they were going to have to go 99, 90 yards to score. And that was the difference. And they just weren't able to do that. And the defense really suffered from it. I do want to say this, and I think people overlooked that. Stephen F. Austin, we know the player that everyone wanted to see, and that's Xavier Gibson. Alcorn State secondary held Xavier Gibson to 0 catches. Xavier Gibson did not touch the ball on the offensive side of the football. He touched the ball as a return specialist. They bracketed Xavier Gibson all night long. No matter if he was in the slot, no matter if he was on the outside, Xavier Gibson was bracketed all night long. And Trey Self looked for him every single play and just could not get the ball to him. Alcorn held the best wide receiver in the FCS statistically, and last year he was the best wide receiver in the FCS, to 0 catches. Shout out to the safeties, KJ Kinsler and them, and also the cornerbacks. Man, they were on number 2 like glue. And I got to give them so many props because Xavier Gibson has been a problem for every defense that he's come up against. And Alcorn State secondary, and on top of that, their coaching staff did a hell of a job shutting Xavier Gibson down. They said anybody else outside of Xavier Gibson, number 2, is going to beat us. And so I want to give props to Alcorn State's defense, man. They went out there and showed out on the defensive side of the football, and that was great, man. A helmet sticker goes to them. Now they did, Trey Self 226, 3 touchdowns to the air. But overall, they had a solid game, and they held Stephen F. Austin to less than 3.5 yards per carry. Statistically, if you just looked at the box score, Alcorn State wins this game. Really and truly, listen. I mean, just looking at it, Alcorn State put up 426, and they held Stephen F. Austin under 400. They averaged over 7 yards per carry. Stephen F. Austin had 11 penalties for over 100 yards, and both teams had 1 turnover. I mean, but the other storyline of the game, Alcorn State in the second half was 3rd and long all the time, and they were 4 for 14 on 3rd down. Stephen F. Austin was 11 for 19 as they kept getting in 3rd and shorts and hitting little short passes. And what was happening is they were bracketing Gibson, which caused the other corner on the other side to play off. And Stephen F. Austin would run curl routes and run out routes, and they would beat it every time, man. And so it just called up to him, man. But listen, Alcorn State played a hell of a game, had a hell of a game plan, and they came out and they did their thing, man. This was a game that Fred McNair and special teams let get away. And Alcorn State is going to be a problem in the SWAC. And for me, right now, Howard is right up there with some of the best running backs in the SWAC. The Gary Quarles, the Caleb Johnsons, whoever else you want to put up there. Howard, the Syracuse transfer for Alcorn State, is right there. And yeah, that's right. Thank you, Andrew. So before the game, G told me the starting punter for Alcorn had academic issues, just like what was happening with FAMU. Apparently, he was told right before the game he was ineligible, so it was the backup punter shanking all those punts. So that shows how, I would say, tedious this game can be, man. A punter being ruled ineligible probably cost Alcorn a top 10 FCS out of conference win. I'm just going to leave that there, man. For everyone still in here, the starting punter being ruled ineligible probably cost Alcorn State this win this weekend over Stephen F. Austin, man. But 31-27, I had a great time, man. Shout out to everyone I met, man. It's so crazy to me when I see people who actually watch the show, man, and they recognize me, man. So everyone I met this weekend, everyone I got to talk to, I really and truly thank y'all so much, man. We're going to end the show, man. We're about to hit hour 3. Got 15 minutes left in the show. If you want to call in, you can, man. Call in numbers in the chat, and it's scrolling on the ticker. We're gonna do our top 25, man. Listen, I pride myself on being as transparent as possible with the chat, with everyone who watches the show. So I promised Sean and some other people that I would be excuse me, I would be completely as transparent with what I'm submitting each week. And I put this together kind of fast because I decided to do this a joint show with the Orange Blossom Classic review. It might change a little bit. I'll let you all know if I do, but I'm releasing the official description and everything on my website tomorrow as well. But man, let's get into this. Starting from 25, I have Richmond at 25. So anywhere you don't see parentheses, that means that team stayed exactly where I had them. If you see plus NR, that means that team was not ranked last week. And if you see minus anything, that means that team dropped that many spots, just to kind of give y'all a heads up. I have Richmond at 25. They were one of my honorable mentions last week. I had some people drop out of my top 25. And so I have Richmond not ranked because I had Monmouth at 25, who lost a conference opener in the CAA. Richmond, they played Virginia close, man. I'm not going to, like I said, I don't knock anyone for FBS losses. And so Richmond was my 26th team last week. They move up to 25. South Dakota's drops 2 spots at 24, mainly just due to some teams performing better than them. They, they really and truly didn't have a bad, they lost to Kansas State, but teams that have big performances are moving up my poll, and I'm not afraid. Listen, now I say this all the time: preseason polls are preseason polls. If a team greatly outperforms my preseason ranking, I have no problem moving them a bunch of spots. And so I moved up some other teams, but South Dakota falls at 24. Northern Iowa sticks at 23. They played Air Force. Then I got Weaver State moving up 2 spots to number 22. They beat Western Oregon 41-5. I don't give them too much credit, but there were some teams that dropped down. William and Mary enters my rankings at 21. They had an FBS win last week, a big one over Charlotte, 41-24, like I talked about earlier. Those wins definitely count. And so I got them at 21. Kennesaw State drops 13 spots to number 20 for me. I know that seems like a lot, man, but listen, they should have beat Sanford. There was no excuse for that team to go out there and look as disorganized and just and they didn't look good at any aspect of their game. And so I'm going to put Kennesaw at 20 for now. They got to prove to me that they belong any higher than that. And so I'm keeping them in my top 20 barely, but they got a lot to prove to me over these next few weeks. Eastern Kentucky jumps up 3 spots. The reason they moved up, man, I thought they performed extremely well against that FBS team. And so I'm going to jump them up there to 19. 18, Mercer Sticks. They played Auburn, played them well, but I'm not dropping them for that loss. Southern Illinois dropped 6 spots for me at number 17. They get the doors blown off of them by a good Incarnate Word team. It was a top 15 loss, so I didn't want to drop them too far, but they can't be in my top 15 after allowing 60-plus points to Incarnate Word. Stephen F. Austin drops 9 spots to number 16 for me. That loss to Jacksonville State really sticks in my mind, and really and truly, they weren't overly impressive against Alcorn State. It was a trap game, which is why I didn't have them dropping much further, but I still had to drop Stephen F. Austin for that for their 2 performances, man. Because when you look over the past 2 weeks, man, they have not looked extremely impressive. And so I'm going to drop them to 16, man. They were all the way up at 7 for me, so I had to drop them, man. Holy Cross jumps up 2 spots. They beat Merrimack 31-17. Then Eastern Washington goes up 5 points. I think they beat a really underrated Tennessee State team, and they looked really good doing it. And also they get helped by Stephen F. Austin, Southern Illinois, and Kennesaw State all losing big. But yeah, Eastern Washington jumps up 5 spots to number 14, in my opinion, for my poll. UT Martin goes up 3 spots just due to some people dropping. They beat Western Illinois 42-25 in a great out-of-conference win. Then Chattanooga goes up 1 spot just due to other people losing. Man, they had an impressive win over Wofford, 31-0. And then East Tennessee State sticks at 11. They had a 44-7 win over Mars Hill this week. So I didn't think I could drop them, man. So let's see. Furman's in my honorable mentions, Reese. Furman's right there, man. I think if they get off to a hot start in the SoCon, do not be surprised if Furman drops in that bottom half. I think Furman's one of those teams you look at as one of those SoCon teams that could greatly exceed expectations. Definitely appreciate you, Wayne. But yeah, so that's my 11 through 25. Let me know if there's anybody that sticks out to you guys. But I think everyone really fairly is ranked, man. It gets kind of iffy around that 23 to 25 spot. There's a lot of teams that you might could slide in there. Central was one of my honorable mentions. I'm going to put that in my article too, as I'm going to list my top probably 5 to 10 honorable mentions that just missed the cut for the most part. But let me get to my final one, man. We can end this. I got Incarnate Word at 10, up 5 spots after their 64 to 29 win over Southern Illinois, which was a top 10 team, man. And so, GJ Kinney and Lindsey Scott and Taylor Grimes and Kalechi Analabechi and Caleb Coltman, they deserve a lot of credit. Incarnate Word right now had to be a top 10 team, in my opinion. Number 9, I have Jackson State jumping up 5 spots from number 14 in my poll. And these plus 5s, minus 6 are based on my poll, not the FCS stats per form. This is my top 25 that I put together in the preseason. But Jackson State's at 9, man. Listen, a 59 to 3 win. This is a top 10 team. I had them preseason ranked above Incarnate Word. Both of those teams were impressive, so I'm gonna keep them in that order. Villanova, I had them at 10, man. Listen, that they did their thing, man. A 45-17 win over Lehigh. And I don't think they did anything to drop, man. And so Jackson State and Incarnate Word are going to come in at 10 and 9. Villanova at 8. Delaware, I have at 7. Listen, that might be high for some people, just because I know some of the FCS stats per form voters had them lower. And so in the composite poll, Delaware was 19, but in my poll, I had them top 12. They go out and dominate a Navy team. I got Delaware State jumping 5 spots as well to number 7. This is a top 10 team, in my opinion. And Delaware, in my opinion, right now, even over Villanova, is a favorite to me to win that conference. And I said it, and you guys can quote me on it. I said they were probably going to win the CAA way early in the year. It was my way too early conference predictions months ago. Delaware for me is a top 10 team, no question. So I'll put them at 7. And then my top 6 stays the same, man. Just to kind of give y'all a rundown. North Dakota State 56 to 14 win over Drake. South Dakota State, even though they're 0-1, they played a close one to Iowa 7 to 3. I'm not knocking anyone for losing to Iowa by 4 points while only allowing 3 total offensive points for them. Montana State 47-0 over Northwestern State. Montana State 40 to 17 win over McNeese, and Missouri State gets that big win 27 to 14 over Central Arkansas. And I mentioned Sac State gets a 56-33 win over Utah Tech. So that is my top 25, man. Just to run through it again: North Dakota State, South Dakota State 1 and 2, Montana State, Missouri State rounding out the top 5. Sac State, Delaware, Villanova, Jackson State, Incarnate Word rounding out the top 10. And then ETSU, Chattanooga, UT Martin, Eastern Washington, Holy Cross rounding out the top 15. Stephen F. Austin, Southern Illinois, Mercer, Eastern Kentucky, Kennesaw rounding out my top 20. William and Mary, Weber, Northern Iowa, South Dakota, and Richmond rounding out my top 25, man. So if you want a real in-depth breakdown, man, I'm dropping my article in the morning. I'm submitting this poll tonight. I know ballots are due tomorrow about lunchtime, and then I think they drop at 1 p.m. Central Time, if I'm not mistaken, on the FCS stats per form website, man. So we'll see. We'll see what other voters think, man. For me, the most impressive teams of the week, if I had to give helmet stickers, which I might be a segment on these recaps, is helmet stickers for teams. Delaware, Jackson State, and Incarnate Word all get helmet stickers for absolutely dominating wins this weekend, man. Delaware knocking off an FBS team in Navy, Jackson State and Incarnate Word knocking off potential, Incarnate Word scores 60 on a top 10 team, and the number 1 threat for Jackson State in their division, they beat by 56 points. 56 points, man. 59 to 3 in a neutral site. It was impressive, man. So that those guys get helmet stickers, and the final one goes to William and Mary. They knock off Charlotte by almost 20 points. Anytime you beat an FBS team by 20 plus points, you definitely deserve a helmet sticker, man. So those are my top performing teams. I'm probably going to have an article about that. Now, what to stay tuned for, man. coming on the channel. One, I mentioned website will have top 25. We're also going to have content from coaches calls this week, man. Thanks to you guys and all the support y'all give this channel, my website, myself, man. Thank y'all so much. I'll be at a bunch of coaches calls this week. Swag, MEAC, OVC. I can't make it to all of them, but I'm going to try to do as many articles and post about, notable quotes and questions for all the coaches. I'm probably going to try to at least be there for most of the SWAC one and get some questions in. I know that's the conference a lot of the channel supporters want me to be at, but the OVC one as well with Eddie George, I really am looking forward to talking to him before this weekend. Now, for me, I'm going to be in Memphis this weekend, Jackson State, Tennessee State. I'm going to be there in the flesh, man. Listen, I'm praying. Jackson State, Tennessee State fans, if there's a rain delay, I apologize. I'm bad luck. And if there's a rain delay this weekend, man, I'm really trying to go 12 for 12 at this point, man. I need 12 for 12 weather delays for your boy. If that happens again, man. But listen, I appreciate y'all for the support, man. A 3-hour Sunday live stream, man. We were at well over 100 viewers all stream, and we hit over 700 viewers, man. That's a personal best if I'm not mistaken, man. So thank y'all so much for all the support, man. We're gonna have a lot of live streams coming this week. Coach's Corner kicking up this week, man, with a big announcement coming about that. And then also, you already know, man, Roundtable Wednesday, FCS preview on Thursday night, and we'll probably have some live streams, preview episodes dropping throughout the week, man. So stay tuned, hit the notification bell, subscribe, like the stream, and subscribe to our social media for the latest updates, man. I'm gonna try to figure out a way to put together these highlights from the Alcorn State game, so stay tuned for that as well, man. But listen, y'all have a great Sunday night. If you're traveling back from Miami, man, y'all be safe. Look forward to seeing all of y'all in Memphis this weekend for Tennessee State, Jackson State, man. But for right now, I'm out.